the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, shape shifting in the night, stalking you. Does my face seem familiar? Does my body tell you more? Will I change you or will it end you? And the power that I have can give you eternal life. Death doesn't know me, I've become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, where the mist, she follows me. I walk alone in the night, watching you, following you, leading on you through the night. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me. Oh, your life, I was still. I become the living dead. I own the darkness and no heart beats inside of me. I become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me.
Something changed inside of me. The inner human slowly dead in me. I feel it come alive. The darkness brings me light. There ain't no stopping it, and you will never hide from me. Pain of the change. What have I become? A creature of the night, ruled by moonlight. The pain of the change. This body's no longer mine. Feel wild and free, but caged at the same time. It's hard to be human, think human, feel human. A hunger surrounds
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. Let me change the banner here. And supposed to be human. Okay. So, just before we get started here today, I want everybody to know if you want to become a member, it's $5 and you turns your name green, and then you will be entered into the contest to win. We are waiting on the hoodies. We had not gotten them started. We thought we had. So, I believe the order went through on the 29th. And then that should be, it usually takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks. So that will be going on. And everyone can get ready for the new hoodies because it's cold. It's cold. We had to do winter preparation tonight, folks, because down here in Texas, unlike our northern friends, it's not cold all the time. Because and I got to say this while we're waiting for the chat to fill up. When I was a kid in West Texas, out in Northwest Texas, and I moved here when I was like 8 or 9. We'd been living out there for 5 years, 2 years in a place called Weiner, another place called Haskell, 3 years. So every year when I was a child, it snowed up there. And then because it's Northwest Texas, and it's up there. It's cold. I mean, it gets cold up there. And so, you're not very far from the border, from where we were at, it wasn't real, I think it was like a couple of hour ride or something, to go up to like Oklahoma or whatever, which was I think the panhandle of Oklahoma, which is that little sliver. And then beyond that's Colorado and whatever. So we weren't that far. I mean, and it was cold, very cold. And it snowed like a couple times a year. Now enough people in the north are like, and oh god, my elbow is inflamed again, because I had stopped taking the Stonebreaker that was recommended to me by Jesse Doyle. And you see my elbow? You see that? Look at that. You see that? It looks like it's all like a big swollen knot. And then I started taking it again, and Yvonne from one of our friends, she's an Olympic medalist from I think she's a gold medalist, isn't she? Yeah, and so she was in the Olympics, and she is Yvonne Graham. Her mother's from Germany, and she grew up in Germany. Her dad was a soldier from America, and so, anyways, her and her sister Yvette is McCoy is an actress. She was on Star Trek, and she's been in a lot of different stuff. And her husband is a full-blooded. He's a big, tall guy. Full-blooded Mohawk. He's been in a bunch of stuff. But anyway, they're really nice people. And so Yvonne has a store called Total Fitness Nutrition. And she's a holistic medicine person, and she is very good at what she does. But she had told me, she said, that's good stuff. She's like, take it. But if you stop and then you start back up, you could get a flare up. And that's what happened. So also, prayers for Jessie Doyle. She's been not feeling good. She's been under the weather. So hopefully she gets better. And but I'm sure she'll be up and about doing the show on Monday. Thank you for Chris Kramer and Bettina Moss for coming on. We have been blessed to have a lot of good friends. We have a lot of good friends. There's been an outpouring of people of support for us, and we're not going to get into anything, but suffice it to say that we've had some issues with people, but we are not going to be victims. We're going to just we stand up for ourselves. That's what we're going to do. And here lately, and Anthony, you can attest to this, we have been blessed, as I could say, with a lot of solidarity, a lot of friends, and a lot of people, and even a couple. Well, there's been more than a handful of people from the other side who've reached across the aisle and said, "Look, enough of this. Enough is enough. This is ridiculous. What these people are saying and doing." Couple people I was really shocked. I was really shocked by, but I until they're ready to come forward and say who they are, but I appreciate you coming forward and being genuinely honest and saying, "Hey," I would say it's kind of funny. One of them was very apologetic and like I didn't realize the whatever the magnitude of this, and the other one was just kind of like, still don't like you, but don't like what they're doing, and that's fine. That is perfectly fine. You don't like me, but then you agree that we don't deserve what's happening. But I say this: everything is karma. This could have been something we did a long time ago. When you're outside and you see a roach and you just step on it, even though it's outside, and you're like, I'm just going to kill that roach just because it's a roach. And then later, you know, the ghoulish king of the roaches is angry and he's like, he killed one of us. And then they start, getting you back with karma. I'm just making that up. I don't know. I'm joking, man. But it's true though. I mean, like whatever happens to you, you can't really walk around in pity for yourself because like this elbow is just it's terrible. It's excruciating pain. It hurts really bad. But I don't ever feel sorry for myself. I get sad sometimes when I think about things, but the truth is, and I've told Anthony this 1,000 times, whatever we do, it echoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it on Gladiator? He says, whatever we do in life echoes in eternity. That's a really
Yeah.
good saying. That's a great movie. Because it's true. It's very true. You do whatever you do, and it'll carry over to the next life, whether you believe that you come back or you go to heaven or hell, whatever, you're going to pay for whatever it is you've done. I will pay. You will pay. We will all pay. It's a credit card, and the bill comes due. And I was not actually referring to anyone with that. I'm going to get blamed for that, but I was actually not referring to a person. I was joking about like the king of the roaches. I was talking about like an actual little roach saying, "Hey, we're going to get him back for killing one of us." That was what I was talking about. Really, I was not making a swipe, and I really don't care how they take it. They're going to take it how they take it, but that's just it's just me making a joke. I saw some cartoon or something where somebody had dropped something on the floor, and the king of the germs was like, "No, wait, we must wait 5 seconds. It is the law we've made with the humans."
Yeah.
I can't remember what cartoon it was. If it was, I think it was like Family Guy, or I don't know what it was. One of those goofy shows, and I was like, that was so fun. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, so it is what it is. We not everybody's gonna like you, and that's okay. It's okay. They don't have to like you, but they don't have to go to the extremes that people do because they're so obsessed and because what you're really doing, you're turning your own life into a nightmare. I can't imagine being obsessed with a single individual. It's crazy. And I don't understand people. Stalking is something just alien. I was accused of it one time in my life. Hold on one second. So, and the person was so, what they did was they told their mom and dad or something that I was doing this to make excuses for their own bad behavior. And so the dad took it upon himself this was when I was like 19 or something. It was a bad breakup. And they went and told the police, and the police questioned me. And I'm like, dude, I was working like 90 hours a week at that time. I was working all the time. And I'm going to open up and tell you this. This is crazy. So one of her friends felt a guilt, and to this day, I'm still friends with that girl. And I really appreciate that she did this. And she went and told them, look, this person is doing narcotics. She's delusional. Actually, it was her and another friend. But if it wasn't for this one particular one, it might have gotten out of hand. And so I talked to them and I said, look, man, I'm already dating someone else and I don't even have time for her. It sucks because I worked constantly. The bosses I had at that time, one of them he's deceased. He believe it or not, he got stung by ants at the lake and had an allergic reaction, and he passed away. He was a really nice guy. And I was working for him at that time, Mr. Lopez, and he cut for me, and he said, "Look, man, this guy's on post, and he's working in 3-man teams for government housing." And I guess I was 20, maybe I was 20 or 20 going on 21. I don't know. The years run together. I was a very young guy, and it was crazy. And so one of the things that this person accused me of was going and looking in her window. And when the officer was telling me this, I just started laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing. And he was like, why are you laughing? What's so funny about this? I said, she lives on the 2nd floor. I'd have to be a vampire to be able to float up there and look at the window. I mean, dude, hold on one second. I'm doing work stuff here. This is ridiculous, dude. Hang on. I have to deal with this person. Suffice to say, the average American worker is not worth a shit. Okay, let's put it that way. I'm sorry. I'm about had it with some of these. That you want to make $20 an hour, but you don't want to do $20 an hour work. We're fortunate. We have 90% of our people are good. It's impossible to get 100%. I don't know how anybody does it. I have tons of business owner friends that I've known for years, and they have the same problem. And just finding, it's frustrating. Anyways, I'm very aggravated right now with that. So, hold on one second. Okay, so Anthony's dealing with that situation, and that's unfortunate. Anyways, nothing we can do. We're just trying to get people to do their jobs, and that's a hard thing to do. But hey, good thing I got fired, right? It's goofy people, man. Oh, thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. Donations are Richard. We appreciate it. Donations are not expected, but they are appreciated. I saw somebody post that a minute ago, and I can't see it now. I'm going to stick that on there. When I was before I was a business owner, I was like, dude, you're just like, oh, the worker, the working man, whatever, until you learn, and my dad was a business manager for the union, the Electrical Brotherhood. And I, even as a kid, and I'm not knocking people. I'm not saying that this is everybody, but I would notice like people doing stupid things. And I told my dad, I was like, that guy got caught sleeping, Dad. How do you defend that guy? And it was getting harder and harder for him to wrap his head around all that, because my dad had a very powerful work ethic. And so he just eventually couldn't do it no more. So guys, if you join the Patreon, there's another thing we got to talk about real quick. If you join the Patreon, you get a swag bag is what we call it. You get like some pretty cool merchandise from PRT, and then you get another one after 6 months. And we are in the process of getting these tumbler things made, and they look really cool. They're different than the previous generation, and we're going to give you one for free if you're a Patreon member. Patreon members are going to get all kinds of perks coming up, dude. It's going to be a really good deal. It's going to be the best deal on YouTube, in my opinion. And I think that what we're going to do is just whenever the new stuff comes out, if you're a Patreon member, you get it. That's what I want to do because you deserve it. Because and it's you guys are the ones that are keeping us going. You're helping the show immensely. And Alan Howell, thank you for that donation. People who donate and help with the show, it keeps us functioning and able to do this, and we can take time away from our job to get this done because we do work a lot. By the definition, I'm pretty sure me and Anthony are both workaholics.
Yeah, y'all keep this show going with your support.
Yeah, your support helps. Becoming a member is cool because then you get entered into the giveaway too. Tonight, if you are a member, okay, then you need to say, "Hey, I have never won," and say it anytime during the show. Tonight we're gonna do it differently, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
If you say it anytime during the show, and we up to 3 people, the first 3 people that say it, and if you are, then you win. If not, then we're going to get to about the halfway point, and we're going to pick the first people. Then at the end, we're going to pick the next people, and it'll be people who've already won. Then you'll just win again. So congratulations to you. And as long as we see it, it's a good deal. I see a lot of people in other chats. I was at BMR's show last night, and then on Abe's show, I was checking out their shows and commenting, and I was doing the rounds, doing the patrol. And then today I was watching Tex, Texas Front Porch for what time I could. And I like Tex a lot. He's a really good friend of mine and another one of the many good people that help us. And KR Davis, you say you've never won, then you're the first winner tonight. Go and give us your name, your address, and your shirt size to Josh Turner, PRTpodcast.com. Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. So there you go. You're the winner tonight. And so what ended up happening is we were chatting. I was chatting with some people in a group the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, we watch your show," but I don't see them on the comment section. And they were saying that they were having a hard time getting in. So maybe there's some people that are blocked. Overzealous maybe a little bit with the moderators. So I explained to them that we've had a rash of trolls over the last year and a half since the conference. We've been under attack, and so we have to be real careful.
Yeah,
we have to be real careful. I have 330 something people trying to be my friend right now, and I don't know who's who or what's what.
Well,
so
also it seems like
personal.
People are kind of confused because on this last live stream, especially, like there was like more than a few of y'all who kept saying, "I'm blocked in the chat. I'm blocked in the chat. I'm blocked. I can't chat." But we're seeing your messages like right there, and then they pop up on the screen. So I have no idea what y'all are talking about. You're not blocked. We can see your messages. I mean, they're in the live chat.
Everyone. You hate the world.
They're right there on the screen, man.
He hates you.
If I can read your chat that says right there where the hand is at, if I can read your message that says I'm blocked, you're not blocked.
Look what human beings.
So chill out.
He just said
spamming the same thing over and over and over. It's annoying.
Tex, what's up, Big Tex? How you doing? There he is, right there. The man, the legend, the myth, Tex. One of the greatest guys in this whole field, dude. I like Tex a whole lot. He's a good dude. Big heart, nice guy, great guy. Been at conferences there with him, and I've hung out with him. He's a nice fella. He's a real guy. Who he is on the show is who he is in real life. I'm the same way. I'm not faking and pretending like, hey, I'm a certain way on here, and then in real life I'm a bastard. No, that's and I have a lot of friends. Some of my friends, here's the thing, everybody's got multiple facets, and this is going to lead into the first story, what we're going to talk about. There are people who do a job, right? And their job kind of leads them into some weird stuff. Now, I have friends who own businesses. I have a friend who's a gym owner. Another one of my friends, I have several friends who own dojos, and I have 4 friends who own boxing gyms and a couple kickboxers. that own gyms. And we're friends with a lot of these people, a couple people that own nutrition stores, or they have like, they make nutrition products or whatever. A couple of my friends are Russian and they actually make supplements. They produce them, whatever. And so I talked to a lot of different people from all walks of life. And I can tell you this, they all have their own niche of what they've got to do. And and they all have their own opinions about things. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they're hustlers. They go get it. They're trying to make a living and do what needs to be done. And I think that these people that I'm friends with, they genuinely care to help people. They are people who are trying to better not only themselves and their family and their friends, but society by helping. They want to teach people. I know a lot of people who teach people in a lot of ways. And supporting them and supporting small businesses, that's important to me. That is. And so I'll sit there and I'll talk to them. And so some of my friends from the gym world, which is the weightlifting world, they know me just from the gym. Like Anthony's seen me go in there and I'll stop. And if I start talking to one of them, I'll be there talking forever. And, so I got to try to like finish the workout and then I'll shoot the breeze with them. And they'll be like, hey, how's that podcast going? They don't know anything about the podcast. They don't really, there's a few of them that do, but they don't really participate in that. And then my friends in the fight world, they don't really participate in the podcast. There are a few of them that do, like I said. And then I have friends who, do all kinds of things. I have friends who own car dealerships. We have a huge network of family and friends, and it is gigantic. And so the other day I was going through and I was talking to one of my friends, Jason, and so I was thinking, he asked me a couple questions about the paranormal. And I was thinking, man, I know all these people from all these walks of life, and the paranormal is, and what I do to them, it doesn't even register what I do. It's like, oh yeah, you do that podcast. They don't really think about it. Yeah. They know me in different ways. The ranchers and farmers that I deal with, because we do live on a ranch now, they think I'm just, whatever. And a couple of those guys, like Harvey, I don't think Harvey even knows that we have a podcast. Yeah. He just knows that I'm a fellow, rancher or whatever. And so, you look at this, everybody's multi-layered. You have this different types of whatever. And so when I'm with my friends who are doing these other niches or whatever, and I'm involved with them, they don't look at me as anything but a friend. They don't see me as a podcast or YouTuber. Which Starscream, what's up, man? Case in point, Starscream. He knows me from the old days. He doesn't look at me as the podcast YouTube guy. And it's like that with everything we do. So I was talking to my friend, and believe it or not, that guy, he's a really cool dude. So the Armenian guy that I was telling you guys about, he ended up getting with a woman from that was Danish. Now, I had talked to you guys on a story. You remember the story, Anthony, about the Danish and German guy? Hey, Scorpion, better late than never. You and D and everybody who's in the chat. Do you remember we were talking about the guy and his wife has this long haul? Like, what do you call it? Like those Vikings, long hauls, yes. Long house, yeah. And so they turned it. It was a Viking hall, and they have that, and then they have like 3 longhouses, and they are 4 longhouses, sorry, and then 3 other like buildings. I saw a picture; it was really cool, and it's on their site, whatever. But he rents that out to people who want to have. It's like a retreat now. But it used to be used by a Danish fiefdom king Jarl. And so it was really cool. So me and him were talking. He's an Armenian guy, and he's been living there for 23 years. And he married a woman. She's actually not Danish. She's from Sweden. But they took over that area, and they bought it. And her brother invested a lot of money into it. And so they kept it alive because the Danish government was going to knock it down and use it for some kind of park or something. And he was like, man, if we would have let that happen, it would have been a, you know. So we have a mutual friend. His friend, who's also a Russian Armenian, owns or used to. He doesn't anymore. Used to own a nightclub in Houston, and I used to be friends with that guy. And so it's something. Somebody's saying it's glitching.
No, they're just more confused. So, guys, the 5-second slow mo thing that's been a thing for a long time now, and that's because we've gotten spammed from like these spam bots in the chat. So you're not being restricted. It's something that we've been having on our live stream for like a long time. It's a 5-second slow mo mode. You type a message, you have to wait 5 seconds before you can type another one, so you can't spam the same thing. And it's not really from y'all. Like I said, it's from these spam bots. It's happened to us like 3 times already, so I had to set that. So that's what that is. There's no personal restriction on you. So let's just stop talking about that in the chat, please. All right, please.
All right, let's get going. So what ended up happening is he says, dude, I have a cousin that would love to talk to you. He was partly correct. He does have a cousin, but the cousin was not loving to talk to me. Not at first, because when I called the guy, yeah, he was not really like, he was like, who is this? Like he was kind of suspicious of me. Took him a little bit to warm up to me and the idea of being, his story being told. He thought I wanted something from him. And I call him Bosco because I can't pronounce his name. He kept telling me, and I was like, what is your, and no offense to you, but I didn't want to mess your name up. So I just said, hey, can I call you Bosco? And he goes, sure, whatever, call it Bosco. And he's a Russian Armenian guy, and he was a cab driver in New York City. Okay. Can you imagine? This was in the mid to late 90s. So he started driving a cab in 94 and he drove a cab till 99. So for 5 years, this poor guy drove a cab in New York. In 1997, he quit driving a cab for a few months and he finally got back on the horse. Something really bizarre happened to him. And now tonight's show is about supernatural encounters in the city, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So I don't know if we're going to be able to finish. If we don't, then I'm going to postpone Chewy's story about the Latusa, and I'm going to just make that the next, if we don't get it all done, I'll make that the next pre-record that's going to come out like Wednesday or Thursday. But this is what happened to him. We'll start with this one, and then you got to stay tuned because the next one is real effed up. I tell you, man. I don't even know where to begin with that. That's a crazy one. Anyway, let's get this one here. So Bosco, this is about stuff that happens in the city when people are like our friends that own businesses and things like that, when they're just doing their mundane jobs. And something happens, because I tell people this could happen at any time to anyone. It could anywhere. We have a friend who works on oil rigs, and he's not just my friend, my cousin. And he was saying that we have a few cousins that do that, but dude, it's crazy. Like at any given time, something could happen. And it didn't really happen to him, but it happened to one of the people he worked with, and the guy told him a crazy story. Well, here we are. So he picked up a guy in Manhattan. I guess it's Upper Manhattan, whatever. And he said that he was waiting. The guy was they were going to pick up another person across the other side of Manhattan, and it was a guy and a girl. And he said that it was just a normal Friday night. There was nothing amazing going on or anything. And so he went across the other side of Manhattan to pick up this other woman. And he said, hey, he goes, I got to get out. I got to get out right here. He's on the phone talking. And this is back in 97, right? Where cell phones were like this big, you know what I mean? It was like, and this guy obviously, and back then, now everybody has a cell phone nowadays, but if you had a cell phone back then, you were badass. Like you were a mover shaker. You had money type guy. And so he goes, this guy had money because he had a cell phone, and he was wearing all this nice stuff, clothes, jewelry, whatever. And he says, I got to get out. And he goes, well, do I still pick up the woman? He goes, yeah. Go and pick her up and take her to where she needs to be. And he said it was like the minute this is weird. He said by the minute that this guy closed the door, he's like, I kid you not. He goes, my friend, I look, this guy is gone, no more. He's disappeared.
Hmm.
And I go, what do you mean he disappeared? He goes, like he gets out of cab, nobody's there. He's gone, nobody. And so I was talking to him, and I said, Bosco, and like I said, that's not his name, but I had a hard time pronouncing. I don't want to mess up his name, but anyway. So Bosco tells me, he says, dude, I look, this guy is gone. Well, he didn't say dude, but he said, the man is not there. And he's like, so I went ahead and I proceeded to the next address. He goes, and I told they have a hub that they radio to, and he radioed them and told them I'm going to go to the next person, whatever. He didn't get a response. He just got static. And he thought, okay, the radio's messing up. That's unusual, He's like, the company he was working for, he goes, they were pretty good about having their crap together. He said he'd worked for a couple of other cab companies, not good, whatever. So he was like, he had never not gotten a response, and he kept trying and they weren't responding. So he just said it again, went to the next stop, and he picks up this woman. This is crazy because something happened to us last night when we were at dinner, and I talked a little bit about it on Abe's show. He had a guy named Melvin Harrison on there, and Joel Burgess from Britain. Melvin's originally from New Mexico, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's living in like Georgia. So he picks this guy up, or this gal up, and this is going to be interesting in the way the tie-in. It's interesting. And we didn't even plan it this way. It just kind of happened. But he picks this lady up, and he's driving her, and she wants to go to Queens. And he says then she wants to stop at this little cafe right there, and she goes, I'm going to run in and do whatever. And so he pulls over the side of the road, whatever, and waits. The woman that he picked up was a dark-haired woman with a Greek name, okay? And she said that she was Greek. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, And the area where they were at was a Greek, Albanian Greek area, right? And it was in between there in Queens, and I didn't get the province and the area of where it was because, New York's divided into boroughs and stuff. And so he said that he was stopped there waiting. Then this blonde-haired woman, thank you for that donation. Oh, Abe, thank you for that donation. We appreciate it. This blonde-haired woman comes up to the cab, knocks on the glass, and he's looking at her, and she's like, hey, can I get a ride? And people do that. They hail cabs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no. He goes, I got a passenger. And so she backs up into the shadows. He goes, I thought I was tripping. I was seeing things. He didn't say tripping, but he thought he was confused. He's like, I get confused, and I see this woman come back out of the shadow. It's the dark-haired Greek lady. He goes, no BS. He goes, then she gets into the back. He's like, and then Bosco's like, where were you? And she goes, oh, I was in the cafe. And he was thinking, that's a lie because she just stepped right out of the shadows. And he looked again, and he had a flashlight. He goes, I thought about it. So he contemplated putting the flashlight on the shadows just to see if that woman was there hiding, right? So he didn't know what was going on. These people were playing games with him, and he thought it was weird how the guy had said, go pick this girl up and then do this and that and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it says, Josh, it's Astoria, all Greeks and Albanian. I lived and worked the clubs. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So anyways, I had my own dealings with the Greeks, Albanians, whatever, years ago when I worked for the Lebanese. They didn't like each other. So there was some problems there or whatever. But he goes and gets, and some of them were my friends, but anyway, so he goes and he takes this woman, he's like, he, at her word, and he says, I thought better of it. He goes, something was telling me, this guy's a very religious Christian too. And he says, it was like Jesus was telling me, don't take this woman. And he's like, I wanted to yell. And this is where he really, it touched me because he was very devout. He goes, I wanted to rebuke her in Jesus' name and get out of my cab, lady. You know?
Yeah.
And so he goes, but I'm a nice guy. I'm not going to talk bad to this woman. Maybe she have problems and blah, 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 you know. And he decided to get ready to take off. And then she's like, oh, can you stop? Because you turn left real quick. And so he said, without even thinking, he did. And it was a mistake because it went down an alley.
Mm.
And this alley led to nowhere. And he was like, oh, wait. So he goes, oh, no, I need to back up. She goes, no, you're good. He goes, the next thing you know, he looks in the mirror, and there is not a woman there. There is this black, like this shirt is black entity with all you can see are the eyes. And then he sees red around the mouth. And he told me this. He goes, have you ever seen a shark like on a video? Like, you know,
No.
he calls them the white shark. He goes, have you ever seen the white shark?
The big
great,
white shark.
You know, the white shark, the great, you know. Not making fun of the way he talks. It's just he has an accent. He's Russian. But he says, have you ever seen the shark, the white shark, the great one? And I said, yeah, great white shark. He goes, this woman had a mouth like that.
Oh.
This was a creature, monster. He said, Mr. Wolf. He goes, this is vampire. So it kind of gave me chills. I'm getting the chills now when I'm talking about it. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, boss, why do you think it was a vampire? He goes, in my country, that's what that is. That's his woman. Pretend like human being. But they're not human. They're vampire. They're a monster. He goes, not look like TV joking movies, all bull. So when I was listening to him, now, of course, his cousin was, you know, he's the one that lived with the Danes up there. And he says, you know, my cousin, he tell you about the werewolf. I said, yeah. He goes, same thing. Monsters. They're real. They are demons. Walk around like humans. And he's like, I swear, no joke. I'm not lie. I swear on the Bible. And he's an Orthodox Christian. And he says, you know, in the Orthodox faith, a lot of them, they tend to be really, by their faith, if they're really strong, and they have to be very honest, because the more you learn, and the more about their faith, and Anthony, you've studied the Orthodox, you've been to their church, they have a very strong and passionate and powerful belief that if you learn and you are of the age of understanding and then you kind of backslide, it's worse for you because you know. So the more that you learn, the more you take on responsibility, the harder the punishment on you because you know better. It's like you're an adult, right? That's what they do. It's not like these feel-good churches where they're like, oh, everybody's going to heaven just because you're believing. No, you don't. The road to hell is very wide and very large. And the road to the Father through the Son is very narrow, is a very, very, very narrow path. Narrow. And they believe this. And they take it to heart. And he says, man, I'm not going to tell you a lie. He goes, these are real. He's like, my mother encountered one of these one time. This guy's way older than me. He's like in his 60s now, late 60s. But he said, you know, he goes, my mother, when it was washing clothes years ago, she's down by the river. He's like, and we are oppressed people. They're in Russia. They don't like Armenians. We have our own community. And we have been pushed to certain areas, you know, whatever. The communists did not like the Orthodox Church. The Orthodox Church stood up to them, and no matter how many they murdered, the NKVD murdered, look into it. It's true. They never broke their spirit. He goes, my uncle. He goes, middle of the night, they come. They take my uncle. My uncle was in the bar. late after work in steel mill. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Guys show up. Don't say these things no more. No more Merry Christmas. The next day, him and the bar owner decorated the bar. They didn't have Christmas lights. I'm not joking. They went in there and they grabbed him and they took him out into the alley and they shot him. His uncle died in 1982. He was shot for Merry Christmas. Think about that. He says, this is what we go through as Christians. He's like, but I'm telling you. He's like, they are just like these monsters. They are walking around human flesh monsters. He's like, but this thing bites me on my back. He's like, it bit me on my shoulder and my back and began to like paralyze me. He said that there is a type of vampire that is known by the Greek Albanians. It is actually, this is a true thing too. I've looked into this. And he says that this thing is like a black creature. It turns into this black creature. It's not unlike a chupacabra, but it's like a full-size, tall being. It's not a little creature, like an imp. And it just wears like a human suit to blend in. And he said this thing was a Greek type of vampire. And now he did his own research. He didn't know at the time, but he found out. He said, one of my friends, his name was Baracus, and he told me, he says, Baracus told me these creatures, not Baracus, Caracas. His friend Caracas is he's a Greek guy. He ran a little deli there, whatever, little Euro place. He said, this guy told me all about it. He goes, these things. And they haunt that area. They're shapeshifters, basically. He says, you're lucky to be alive. He goes, this thing, it paralyzed me. He goes, I couldn't move. He's like, but I had something. He's like, my cross. It was inside of my jacket, my neck. He's like, and I reached up. It was silver, and I pulled it out. He goes, and I was like, I yanked it off of me. He's like, I could not move. The whole right side, he goes, and my face was turning cold. The right side of my body was becoming paralyzed all the way down to my leg, and it was spreading to the left side of my body because it had bitten him on the right side. And he says, I take it, the silver, and I stick it, and I put it right up on its face. He said, the skin feels weird, rubbery, but like coarse. And the way he described it kind of reminds me of like a shark, how their skin feels.
Yeah, like that sandpaper or like a cat's tongue or something.
Yeah, very rough because they have little bitty teeth on it.
Yeah, like little hooks.
Little hooks, yeah. So he says, I stab it with this thing. I said, you stabbed it? He goes, I mean, I put it on there and it like shrieked and fell backwards. He goes, and I could see it changing into this woman. And then like kind of like the way his wording was like, it became blurry, but it was like, like it was like the Shimmering Phantom we did the story on, the show on. And he said that at that point, dude, he got out of the cab and he began to fall on the ground and he was crawling, and this thing, he said, it stepped out of the cab. He quit calling it a woman or a man. He said it. Mm-hmm. He called it an it. It stepped out of the cab and it was like kind of pushing him with its feet. And he goes, and I look up, there's people walking by, nobody's doing anything. It's New York. People are doing shit all the time and nobody's doing anything about it.
They probably don't even notice.
They don't. Yeah, there's too much going on. You call the police, they might show up, they might not. I mean, I stayed in Chicago for a summer. Believe me, it's same thing. It's like you mind your own damn business, dude. All right, like, oh, those people are mugging that guy. Oh, it's not me. And I was kind of told by my family, just everybody's. You walk through a Polish neighborhood, Irish neighborhood, Italian neighborhood, Jamaican neighborhood, Dominican neighborhood, Haitian neighborhood, whatever. Just stick to yourself. Mind your own business. You got the Cuban neighborhoods, Puerto Rican neighborhoods, whatever. People can be tough, man. The Polish people there up there, I mean, don't mess with them. Just don't. They're tough people. So he's up there, and this guy's like pushing him. This creature's like kind of kicking him, pushing him. He's like, I rolled over and I look up and he goes, and I see this. It's a woman again. He goes, it's there standing there over me. He's like, and I held that cross and he goes, and my hand was shaking. I was trying hard to get control of my body. He's like, and this thing was battling me. He goes, and I was praying. He goes, and I said, in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus. And eventually it just kind of like turned its head and kind of shrieked and then just walked off real fast. And he said that this thing, it was like, he looked up. He goes, 2 seconds later, I see a guy coming out of a deli with a bag like of food. And this thing just grabbed that guy and took him off into the alley like that. Boom. So he goes, I think I know what was going on. And I said, well, tell me, what do you think was going on? And Bosco told me, he says, that thing was hungry and wanted to feed. And he goes, and that thing, he goes, it thought it had me. And when I managed to get away from it, it just turned and grabbed the next person that it was right there. And I said, did you bother to look what he's doing? He's like, man, I was so weak. He goes, I staggered into a restaurant that was right there. He goes, and I just sat at one of the tables. He goes, and I asked to use the phone. I called the police. He says, I filed a police report. He's like, but I made the mistake of telling them what really happened. He goes, the police come. Yeah. He says, I got attacked. But when he started going into detail, they were just like, yeah, buddy. Yeah. He goes, dude, this stuff happens right in front of them and they don't see it. They're blind to it. They're blind. And so, yeah, the numbness went away. Yes, spilling tea. So I asked him that. I said, how did you feel afterwards? He says, like I was dying. He's like, I lived. He's like, but this thing got me, and he goes, and it drained blood fast. He goes, my shoulder and back were bleeding. He's like, so I go to the hospital and they said that it seemed like he had lost way more blood than he actually had. He lost 1.5 pints of blood.
Oh,
but it happened so fast.
Mm-hmm.
He said these things, he goes, in particular, that type of vampire, because now he's studied it and he says he knows a lot more about them. They said, but that particular one, they kill you really fast, right? They exsanguinate you. So doing some research, we have looked into the various types, and there are beings out there that can unalive you really quickly. And I'm not even joking. How many people might go missing or just drop off the face of the earth, and it could be these beings doing it. I do believe that there is a network too, and I've got to be real careful, according to my friends. But I'm not gonna lie and say I don't give a crap what they think, whatever. But I'm not gonna sit back and live in fear and worry about what the repercussions of talking about it is, because it is what it is what it is. And another good thing, he was very, very appreciative of having somebody that listened to him and didn't mock him.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, he was going to talk to a guy on there on the YouTube channel, whatever. And I don't really know this guy very well. I guess his show's not around anymore, but he had a few videos up. I looked up the channel, but it was somebody that he was dating. She tried to get him to talk to that person, and that person wasn't having it. They didn't even want to hear it. They acted like he was making it up or something, And now he's like, I'm 67 years old. I have nothing to, I'm not going to make up something.
Yeah.
He goes, at that time I was 62, I think he said he was. He's like, I was a 62-year-old man. I have no reason to lie about what happened to me. He's like, but there are people who absolutely know what is going on. This is not some, it's not a myth. It's not. I'm telling you, what they've done is they've commercialized it and turned it into a big joke. It's the same thing they did with these dogmen. They've turned it into a big joke. Bigfoot too. Messing with Sasquatch and all this other crap. It's like,
Well,
I
even the
mean,
shows that are supposed to be supposedly taking the phenomenon seriously, like finding whatever, like they turn it into a big joke, leaving jelly
mhm.
donuts out for them. Like, dude, come on, this is not only is this insulting to the people who are watching it, but it's making light of these monsters.
Yeah. And so there are a lot of people who mocked him. He said his own brother made a big joke out of it, but his not his mother, his grandmother. He said she was like, no, 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 this is very real.
Hmm.
It's a very real thing. And she did not make fun of him. He said his grandmother lived to be over 100. And she said that she had her own encounters with things. Now, only once did she come across something that she thought was a vampire, and it was when she was living overseas, and she used a cross to repel it. And but he doesn't know the whole ins and outs of it because she took that story to her grave. She didn't want to
Hmm.
give it any kind of whatever, because whenever she tried talking about it, it happened when she was a young woman. When she tried talking about it, yeah, it's Nelly. So whenever you did, something bad would always happen. So take it for take it for what it is. I mean, I'm thinking that if you are a person and you are attacked by one of these things, you cannot sit there and go, "Oh, I'm okay, I'm good," because I'm gonna whatever. I think the only thing you can use is faith, because everybody who I've talked to who's ever been attacked or had anything like that happen, and everybody I've talked to that was involved in this vampiric cults, and I mean, they all say the same thing. I mean, it's faith. That's pretty much all you have. And I think that they seem to have an aversion to silver and, believe it or not, gold too, because these are purification metals. And so they don't. And the reason that you hear more about silver rather than gold is because most people can't afford copious amounts of gold, especially pure gold. Gold typically has alloy, like there's an alloy with it, unless it's the gold bars. Now, I would say what I'm doing right now is making a St. Benedict piece that's going to be made of silver. I'm going to make another one that's pure gold, and I'm going to see how it works. Let's see what happens. And but I have talked to a supposed vampire slayer. Also, I've talked to werewolf slayers. Whether they're legit or not, we don't know. We haven't really gone too far into it with them, but they claim that that's the truth. That you can actually use those as purification metals. Even copper can also ward them off, and pure iron. But once you start adding alloys and things like that, it dilutes it. But it also needs to be something like the Saint Benedict, like this right here. This is what they say can actually repel this thing. That's Saint Benedict on the back there. The Benedictines will actually they will bless it if you take one. And they have an order down in Houston where I plan on actually getting that done. So, anyways, he went on with his life, and unfortunately for him, a lot of people mocked him and made fun of him. But the woman that he's married to now, uh, funny because she's actually Greek descended. Her dad was Greek, her mother was Italian. But yeah, so she learned a lot about, well, a Greek and Sicilian, but she learned a lot about these beings from her dad. And so he talked about them like it was a very real thing. It was a very normal thing.
Hmm.
No physical residual effects on him for him, at least like from what he told me. Unless he's hiding it, I mean, I don't believe anything. So tell me what you think of that.
was gonna say it's funny, but it's not funny. But like the expression is that it's funny that it's like to like Armenians and or Albanians, Greeks, Eastern Europeans, especially. These things aren't like to us. It's paranormal, supernatural, like mysterious, unexplained, weird. But it's very much not like that to them. To them, this is just a part of life. Like it's something that they grew up with. That they never were told like these are just bedtime stories that we told you to scare you into behaving when you were kids. Like no, it's not like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny where you find out, oh, it's not real. It's just a story we told you.
Yeah.
No, this is like to them. There's no question. It's not even up for debate. And I think in the West we've definitely gotten away from that, and it's a dangerous mentality to not take these things seriously.
Andres has a good question, as always. Andres has always got some really good questions. Good. What he said. Good comments. We have a lot of good comments coming from people in the chat. He says, did he at one point wonder if he was targeted for any reason? I mean, that is a good question, and unfortunately, I failed to ask that question. That would be a good question, though. I will try to go back, and maybe I can throw it back out there. A lot of times I'll go back and I'll research and re-talk to someone, and then I won't even talk about it on the show again because we have so much going on that just keeps going. The show just keeps rolling. It's like a train.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and it's PRT train rolling.
I do think, though, but with his story in particular, that it shows that these vampires, whatever that thing he dealt with was, it shows that they have varying levels of like situational awareness and intelligence, because okay, so he had that silver necklace, that silver crucifix around his neck. I mean, and he was a believer. He had faith, and that is what saved him.
Mm-hmm.
But that he would not have been targeted by this thing if it knew that. So these things don't know everything. They can't look at you and see everything about you. They're not as smart as we think they might be. And they're not as powerful as we think they might be. But that doesn't mean that they're not dangerous or to be underestimated. They're just to be taken seriously and to be understood at a very practical level. That I think they have varying levels of intelligence, of perception, of power, of abilities.
I think it depends on how old they are.
Yeah, that especially.
The other that's
they're not all
them,
the same.
They're not at all.
A more like ancient, vampire could have probably looked at him and said that this is not for me. That this is a waste of my time. Yeah. Why go for this prey when there's easier prey to go for? Like some non-believer or something.
Another good comment. Sparky's got a lot of them today. Kate Finnerty, good question. My guess is it depends on the person and the level of faith. Maybe I'm under the impression some people are marked very clearly for evil to see. The next story we got to tell. I like this guy. He was cracking me up. He made me laugh. His real name is Leon. And first we were going to use a fake name, and he said, nah, bro, just let it like it is, man.
Yeah.
Before we get started about him, he's a really cool dude. He plays Santa Claus every year for his family. He's an African-American guy.
Yeah.
And he says, man, we were on the phone right before Christmas. And he says, I said, what are you doing? Because he was all kind of struggling with something. And I was like, what are you doing, bro? He goes, oh, I'm trying to fit my fat ass into this fantasy. I said, what are you doing? You're just role playing or something? He's like, nah, man, I got to be Santa Claus. He's like, I'm a fat. He said something else. I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I gotta be Santa. He goes, and I'm trying to change, and these little badass kids keep trying to run up in here. And he's like, see, lock the door. I can hear him in the back banging on the door. I said, all you need is that music from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, he said, man, these kids up here, you know, they aggravate me. He said, let me go out to the garage where my man cave is. And so he called me back. And we talked to him. Now, I met him through a mutual friend, another guy. And so we started talking, and we had a good conversation. He's a really cool guy. He's a big Cowboys fan, and I think we spent 20 minutes bitching about Jerry Jones. I said, look, I think we need to get back on track here because we can talk about Jerry Jones all day long, brother. Now, he does have the sugar. You need to get that under control. Now, I want to take a real quick minute here. Scorpion and my brother both have this, okay? And I've been borderline for years. I don't have it, but diabetes. And, folks, if you have it, stay away from sugar. I mean, I care about you. I promise you, dude, do not do it. I've lost my grandfather on my dad's side and my grandmother on my mom's side. They both died from diabetes. Please take care of yourself. Do what you have to do, okay? Because I loved my grandfather dearly. I barely got to know my grandmother. I was 1.5, almost 2 when she died. Now, like I said before on the show, I've seen her since then. But please stay away from it. Sugar is no good. Like these right here, these have no sugar. I'm sure I stand corrected. These Quest deals 1 gram of sugar. Now, they don't taste it. They're not going to taste super great, whatever. But, you know, better than dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not only diabetes, but sugar is like a catalyst for so many other like bad health conditions. I mean, even if you don't get diabetes from eating a lot of sugar, which you probably will, but it opens you up to so many other health problems that you just don't want to have. So just stay away from it. No more sugar, and none of that fake sweet and low stuff either. That's even worse.
Not good for you.
You just gotta have to learn to deal with not eating sweet stuff. Sorry.
So Nelly is here. Now, when we went over this story, it was New Year's Eve, and we were talking about it. And I remember going to the restroom. Beautiful. One of our sites is a beautiful high-rise building downtown. I can't tell you the location, but the people there are really nice people. And to be paying as much as they're paying to live there, they're nice people. They're not really snarky. Everybody was great. They were in a good mood, and they love Nelly. She worked there. And I got to say, New Year's Eve was awful for me and Anthony for about 4 or 5 hours. We had some problems. But after that, and so, but Nelly, she had a good post. Her and Tony, they got to work the pretty good, decent place. But I can tell you this, I told Nelly and Anthony afterwards, I said that restroom in there reminds me of Leon's story. Now, I got permission to say his full name, but I'm just going to go with Leon. He is not a follower of the show. He's not a big YouTube guy, whatever. He's big into sports, in particular basketball and football. He loves his Mavs. I love the Mavs. He loves the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys. I hate. It's like an abusive relationship with them. Jerry Punk. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about ET. He aggravates the crap out of me, dude. He does. Every time he talks, we're just going to have a good year, some years. La, la, la. I wish you would lie. Just shut up. Shut up. Wish that somebody would throw the ball and hit him in the head. And then just. Today, Jerry Jones fell over. He's in critical condition. A ball hit him in the head. He takes balls to the head. And this time it was fatal. He'll never recover. But that's not going to happen because, and he thinks he's the man, knows everything about football. Well, obviously you don't. That's why we suck. We lost in the last seconds to Washington. And thank goodness, because your draft stock will go up. What's the point of winning 8 games? What's the point? Nothing. I hope you lose every game next year. every game, Jerry, until you are gone. I hope you lose every game. And I said it right here. Cowboys next year, 0-17. Yay. You don't ever stand up when they get rooked in the playoffs. You don't, well, it's just unfortunate, that Goodell just screwed us again. Millie. Shut up. Just shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. I'm talking about Mitchell. If you don't know what that is, Mystery Science Theater, look up Mitchell. That's just all I got to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, enough of that. So me and Leon were talking, and he's a nice guy. He does a toy drive, and then they do all kinds of stuff for kids and stuff. And his wife seemed like a very jovial person, but he had something happen to him about 10 years. Well, no, I guess it was 2012. What is that? 12? That's what is this? 2025? That's 13 years ago. Okay, never mind. It was a long time ago. I was sitting over here going like, it was recent. No, it wasn't. I'm old. So anyways, he told me an incredible story. And mind you, he goes, the paranormal was not, he goes, my granny's house was haunted. And I said, yeah, everybody's grandma's house is haunted, especially if you're a Latino. There's always like a cucuy or a fantasma. And I'm always like, hey, yeah, whatever. Hombre, way, you're just, you're in the bathroom and whatever, you got gas, the echo, like, it's not a spooky ghost. Okay. You ate too many tamales. Huh? So what ended up happening with this guy, he was working security in a high-rise building downtown in the Dallas area. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you where, because he's worked there off and on for a long time. After this incident, he actually went back to work there in 2018. And he worked there for 3 more years, which for me, I told him, I said, I would have been done. I don't think I could have ever gone back there. But then again, we have some weird stuff that has happened on some of our sites, and we just have to deal with it, which is what this show tonight is about. I mean, you don't know when the supernatural is going to strike. Yeah. It really is. Like you don't know. You can't predict. Like people go about their day on their mundane lives, and something just happens to them in the city, in the middle of the city. So this is what happened to him. And he said it was around Halloween, and it wasn't Halloween, but it was a few days before. And he goes, and there was, everybody was already dressed up, and it was decorations and all that. And he said that it was on a Saturday night, right? And I believe it was like, I think he said it was the weekend before Halloween, if I'm not mistaken. And he said that it was like people were out partying or whatever. I don't remember what year Halloween fell on that year. I don't know. He just said it was the last weekend before Halloween. And people were dressed up and doing whatever, or maybe it was the day before. I don't know, whatever. But he said that it was the weekend, and he was there in the building. And he says, and it was just a normal thing. He's like, and so I radioed there was an on-site maintenance guy, because there was so much going on that he was like, he had to tell him, hey, I need to use the restroom. And if he couldn't get somebody to watch the front desk, he'd have to lock the front doors. And so he didn't want to do that. And so he had a patrol guy that would come by like every couple of hours. He goes, but the guy had just left. He goes, and all of a sudden nature called and hit me. And, so he had to go and do the one where you have to sit down, right? So he goes into the restroom, and he says, and the way that the restroom was built, okay, it reminds me of the account we have, right? Mm. You know how we talked about it, because there's an entry room, and then there's not a stall, there's a door. Like you open the door and go into the restroom on the inside, and you close the door, right? So the restroom is like there's the sink and the urinal and whatever, but then there's a door that you can go into where you actually sit down in the bathroom, and it's pretty private. Yeah. But he said that there's like, an inch or two below the door, like you can, that's it. It's not one of those gaps, and you can lock it, the inside door. And he says, so it's pretty cool, and it's very comfortable. He goes, I liked it. I'm a big dude, and it was, it was comfortable. And so he says he went in there to use the restroom, And he goes, and I'm in there, I'm using the restroom, and he goes, and I'm just sitting there doing whatever, looking at, he said they had a bunch of reading material at the front and he would take it in there, whatever. And he says, and I'm in there like, I'm just looking at stuff I can't afford to buy. He's making, he's joking. And then he hears somebody come into the bathroom. Okay. Now, like I said, there's a door there. He can't see who the hell it is. Right.
It's not stalls. It's private little.
Yeah. And so he had get this. He had a radio and a cell phone. This wasn't the ancient times. This was 2012. Right. So let me double check and see make sure that that's correct. What year it was. Well, it's not too important. It was either 2012 or 2013, something like that. Anyway, he was in the stall and he was like talking. He heard talking like outside, like somebody was talking on their phone. But he goes, but it was in some unintelligible language. He goes, I hear like this yelling or something. And then he goes, somebody comes into the bathroom. He's like, and I could hear them throw something onto the counter. And then it gets weird. So he's sitting there and he's like, what the hell? This person starts like grumbling to themselves, like, hey, like somebody's,
Yeah.
He said, but they had this very deep, low, guttural voice. And he goes, and it was creepy, dude. He goes, and then he goes, that they're talking away, like they're talking, and they're not on the phone at this point. I could tell they weren't talking to anyone. They were just kind of talking to themselves. And he said, and every few words was English. I could understand it. But the rest of it, I didn't know. It was like garbled, whatever. He goes, and then my radio goes off. And he's like, oh, he goes, it freaked me out because this person, they sounded unhinged.
Yeah.
He's like, and I didn't have a gun on me. He goes, and I had pepper spray. He goes, and I had a baton. I didn't have a gun because it was a non-commissioned post. In the state of Texas, you have to be commissioned, whatever, So anyway, he says, look, I didn't have a gun on me. He says, and so I hear this person like talking, grumbling, whatever. He goes, then their phone goes off. Or he says his radio goes off. And the guy was checking in with him, the maintenance guy. And he told the maintenance guy, I think his name was Oscar or something like that. And he says, no, I'm good. He called him O. He said, I'm good, O. And he was like real quiet. And this guy stopped. Like, because he could hear him, on the radio. And then he goes, dude, I was like, oh, crap. This crazy person heard me on the radio. And they stopped. He goes, and then he goes, I heard him like make this noise. He goes, and then they start checking the door. Like they're trying to get into the door where he's at. And he's like, I'm a big guy. He goes, and I'm not a P word, like I'm not, He goes, but I was like, hey, I'm in here. He goes, I had to say something, He goes, and then the person starts kind of growling, and then he hears them like banging onto the wall and knocking, stuff around in there. He could hear them like knock over the tissue thing, and he's like, this person's flipping out. He goes, and I'm thinking somebody should do something. Wait, I'm the person should do something. I'm secure.
Yeah.
He goes, so I was like, they're on drugs. There's some crazy stuff going on here. I better call the police. And he goes, I pull out my phone about to call the popos, And he was like, phone's not working. He goes, and this little object, not his words, but he said, no charge. He's like, and that's BS because I had 84%, bro. He goes, bro, I looked at my phone. He said, I done looked at my phone before I went and sat down in there. He goes, and that damn thing had 84%. He said, now the damn thing won't turn on. He said, I was so mad I wanted to flush it down the toilet. I said, that's what you get for using Apple. Now he's, yeah, what? But it sounds Apple. Well, they I'm not going to say. Anyway, but that's not, and then he said, I don't use Apple. Then I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's wrong with it. But no, he proceeded to tell me that this person, whoever it was on the other side of the door. They started shaking the door handle. And he was like, it was one of those, kind where you go up and down like that. The kind that Martis likes to open. And I said, yeah, I know what you're talking about. He goes, and I could see it going up and down. And then this person started pushing onto the door. He said, but the door opens out. Thank goodness. It doesn't push in. And he goes, because this person was slamming up against it. And he was like, oh, dang, man, this person's. And he's like, what do you want?
This guy's really got to poop.
And he said, whenever he did that, the person would stop and grunt and growl. And he thought, man, I'm stuck here. He goes, so I get back on the radio. He goes, and I radio to the maintenance guy. And I said, hey, man, you need to call the police. And the guy's like, what? I can't hear you. All I hear is static. So he said it again. Same thing. Said it again. The person that he was, the only person that he could get in touch with was up there at the front desk, and who was walking around, but he said, hey, man, I got to do my rounds. He goes, I'm not understanding you. So he was leaving the front desk now. Because he's like, if I have to open this door and fight with this person, or this damn, in his own words, he said, or this damn thing, whatever it was, he's like, that person's not, I'm not going to be able to open the door and yell out there to hear me. So he was terrified. He was like, dude, I'm sitting there. He goes, and I'm scared. The energy coming off of this person, I can feel it. I can feel it. It was evil, dude. He goes, at my granny's house, he goes, when I was a kid, I saw something that looked like a demon. And it looked like it was fire, like a pillar of fire. He goes, and I could feel pure evil hatred off of this thing. He's like, I was 11 or no, I think he said he was 9 years old the first time he saw it again when he was 11. Him and his brother. He goes, and that thing on the other side of that door was evil. He goes, I'm going to tell you it was evil. And I said, so what makes you think it was evil besides the feeling? He goes, I'm going to tell you. He said, at this point, I'm standing up. I'm done with my business. He goes, and I'm just standing there and I'm trying to psych myself up to open the door to see what the hell this is. He goes, and then I hear this something on the ground, like moving around. Like it sounded like this thing, whatever it was, person was jumping around on all fours. Like it was like ba-boom, 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 going back and forth. He goes, and you could see the shadow moving underneath the door. He goes, and then I see hand, at least something that looked kind of like a hand, go underneath the door, and I see the fingers flipping up, moving around like this. And then I see another one. He's like, and I'm looking at this, and he's like, dude, oh my gosh. He's like, dude, I had to cover my mouth to keep from gasping and making like a noise. He goes, and he started talking about he's hunted, right? He goes, there's predator and prey. He goes, and when you act like prey, the predator gets more excited, more, pays more attention. He goes, and I thought if I gasp and act all scared, this thing's going to become more animated. He goes, dude, this part made me freak out, dude. Okay. The hands or whatever this thing was, the nails were black and pointed like a dog's. The digits on the hands were fingers, and the knuckles were bulged out. He said he saw it clearly. It was like a brownish color with the fur, but the skin looked gray. And he was like, he goes, dude, he goes, Wolf, I covered my mouth. Like, oh my gosh. Now we have a mutual friend. And my friend, I talked to him and he told me, he said, this guy's no punk. He's worked security with this dude. They did a DMX concert years ago. And he said, dude, this dude can fight. He's a tough guy. He's no punk. He goes, but dude, he goes, I'm not going to lie to you, man. He goes, I'm 6'5". He goes, I was scared out of my mind. He goes, I'm 295 pounds, man. He goes, I lift weights. He goes, I'm a fighter. He goes, but this, whatever it was, had me scared. He's like, I was really pissing my pants scared. He goes, this was no human being. He goes, and all I could do, he goes, you know what I did? He goes, I turned around and I kneeled down on that toilet. He goes, I'm not ashamed to admit it. And he goes, and I began to pray. And I said, Lord Jesus, help me. Because whatever's on the other side of this thing, please protect me. He goes, I have to get out of this restroom. And there is something evil on the other side of that door. And he was telling me this, and I was riveted by this. And I was going like, good gosh, dude. So you stop for a minute and you kind of, like, you think about it. And you're like, what the hell would you do? Like, I don't know what the heck I would.
What could you do?
What would you do?
Do what he did.
Being that I'm me, and that I can beat up the entire world, I would just open the door and be like, oh, headbutt, elbow drop. Oh, wait, not the gout. Sorry. And then I pick him up and I'd turn them into a pretzel, and I'd snap it to a Slim Jim and some other fantastical shit that would never happen. And then he'd probably slam my ass through the wall and eat me. I don't know.
Man, look, I'm sorry, but if I'm on the toilet in a public restroom, being in that room with me is a very dangerous place to be. All right, that's all I know. Because I have a secret weapon, and I will not hesitate to unleash it. It will make World War I mustard gas look like
Mustard.
DJ Fog. All right. I have that monster running out like.
Stand further away from the mic because if you scream like that, we can't hear the wonderful
Can't hear
sound
the scream.
effects.
Yeah, I want to sound effects.
It sounds like But so despite the nonsense that Anthony just spewed and what I spewed, we were joking, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Not to take anything away from you, Leon. I mean, it is, because he asked me, he goes, bro, what would you do? I said, what are you asking me? Because I had an experience and it wasn't even as bad as that. I just I don't know. Was mine worse? I don't know.
Well, no, his probably because he's
Everybody's trapped.
I mean,
Everybody's
where can he
experience is
go?
the worst because it happened to them. But I was able to, there are people around me.
Yeah.
Like my
Oh, he
Uncle
was
Sal
alone
came
and
out and I ran up, to the house. I mean,
Mhm.
hell, I don't know what I'd do.
Have a panic attack of your life.
It's where guns and ammo come in handy. Not the magazine, but the real, the magazine that goes in the, because then you're like, what's his name on, what's the one where he's like a Puerto Rican gangster? He's like, I'm coming out or whatever.
Carlitos Way.
Carlitos Way.
Yeah.
And he goes, you think you're big time? You're going to effing die big time. And he comes out and he's like, here comes the pain. And then everybody's already dead. I probably would have done something. I'd have started talking big and hopefully this beast would have been intimidated, but I would have been rebuking it in Jesus' name, like big time. I would have been like, God, I need you now. I mean, just, and if it is your will, whatever happens is your will. That's it, period. That's all you can do.
You start banging on the door and trying to pretend like you're trying to get at it. Like, wait till
you're
you
lucky
get out
I'm
here.
still doing my business. I don't know what I would have done, because it was a terrifying encounter. Okay. So then he tells me, he says, dude, I'm standing there at the door and I'm like, I got my hand right there. He goes, and I'm like breathing like real shallow, and he goes, and I'm trying to build up the courage that I need to open up a can of whoop ass on this thing, whatever I got to do. He goes, all I wanted to do is like get past it maybe and get out into the hallway where the cameras are. And I could be like, oh, there's a monster. And so I asked him at this point, I said, what do you think it was? He goes, I thought at that point that it was some kind of monster, hairy beast, whatever. He's like, honestly, a werewolf. That's what he thought it was. Right. But let me tell you what happened. So he's standing there at the door, right? He goes to open the door and he does, right? He shoves the door open and he looks around behind it. He looks, there's nothing there. So he says, either this thing slipped out without me having any, knowledge, he goes, I don't know how it did it because it was just right there. I could hear it grunting, growling, making noise. And he goes, and it was breathing hard, like, and it was getting, like it had a hairball in his throat. I mean, not to be funny, but that's what he said. His words, not mine. And then he says, when he walked out, there was nothing there. He goes, huh?
The phone.
Yeah. But the thing is, he said, dude, it was like, the whole restroom smelled like pee, like urine, and wet dog. He's like, and there was like watery crap all over the floor and hair on the floor and on the counter, and it was just gross. He's like, so I walked out and I thought I'm going to get jumped in the hallway or something, but luckily there's cameras. He goes, I walk out, I look right up at the camera to make sure they see me. He goes, and I'm looking around. He goes, and then I run to the front. He's like, and I call, the security, the patrol guy. He shows up. He's like, and I called the police. He's like, they took forever to show up because, busy night and it's, whatever. He goes, Oscar comes back down. He's a maintenance guy. He's a pretty big Hispanic dude, and he goes, and we're both from the hood, bro. He goes, we're not scared,
Yeah.
We're not a couple scaredy asses. He's like, and so we, with the patrol guy, who's this guy, who's a pretty big, guy too. I can't remember what he said his name was, but he's a big old, as he said, corn-fed white dude who ain't afraid of nothing. The guy's literally from like Nebraska, and so he shows up. He goes, he's like me. We're both 6'5", big dudes, man. He's like, and we're like, let's take care of this. So we go all through the building looking everywhere. We don't find or see anything. We go to the cameras. He's like, and I'm expecting to find something really weird. He goes, and in a way, it was. But he says all you see is this tall guy wearing a mask, like a very obvious plastic mask. He goes, and it was weird. It was a Casper the ghost mask. That's all it was. He goes, and the guy just looks up at the camera and goes into the restroom, and he's wearing like a almost like a suit, like the kind you would expect to wear a top hat, he didn't look like he was from this era. He looked like he was from what he said, like the olden days. He looked like an olden days, like old timey man.
Old timey man.
That's the way he talks. But he said he had like this Casper the Friendly Ghost mask on, and he goes, and the guy, he's wearing gloves, black gloves. You could see that. White gloves. You could see that. Black shoes. He had a white dress shirt on and a black overcoat, and he walks into the restroom. He goes, the creepy thing is, the next thing you see is me walking out. You don't see the Casper dude walk out. So tell me what the hell was going on. Because inquiring minds want to know. And I want to thank my friend Bull for sending this guy to me, because Bull he's him. Like, he's a tough dude.
Yeah.
He's a very tough African-American dude. He's a biker, and he's a tough guy. And he said he vouched for this guy. He said, this guy's tough. He's a big, tough guy. And I believe him. But he's a very friendly guy, too. He's got a big heart. Gotta get that diabetes under control, brother. But let me tell you something. Like, what the hell would you do? And then after that, you got two other big guys, and you're all looking through and you see nothing. But they're in shock that there's nothing there.
Had you not prayed, it would have ended differently, maybe.
The fact that this thing could go in there and then come out undetected. Now, there's more to the story. I'm going to tell you something. This is the part, I think, of all of this probably is the part that gives me the biggest anxiety. And I'm actually getting a little bit of anxiety from it. Secondhand anxiety, maybe.
Calm down.
You're like, calm down. Nellie's doing the slap. Do it again. Do it again what you
I
did.
said, calm down.
Gee, you actually just got hit in the real. What are you doing, man? Come on.
Trying to snap you out of it.
So you slapped me with a tiny hand?
Oh, man, it wasn't even on camera.
This is kind of abuse I go through.
Do it again.
No.
I thought the camera was facing you when it did that.
Thank goodness it wasn't. But you see the kind of abuse.
Well, I didn't hit. I hit your ring because you put your hand up.
Yeah, because I'm quick. Thank goodness.
Okay, but this is a
Thank
tiny little
goodness.
plastic can. It's not
Okay, but you
I'm not
almost
gonna
got me
smack
in the eye.
I'm not gonna
which
smack
could
the
have
crap out of
scratched
you
my
with it.
cornea, dude. Stop.
Corneas being scratched everywhere.
What would happen? I'm a national treasure, dude. I told you. Okay, everybody loves me despite the rumors. So this guy, so this is the part that really gets me. He said, dude, about a month goes by. He goes, it's like right after Thanksgiving. He's like, and one of our people, the cameras are messing up. He goes, so one of our peoples go over there and they start messing with the cameras, whatever. And he says, dude, they go back to that day on there. And he says, dude, they call me into the office. And he goes, and this guy, I know him for a long time. He goes, he's this crazy little Italian guy, right? His name literally is Vinny. That's what they call him.
Yeah.
That's his, And so he goes, he tells him, he says, a little Italian dude. He said, he's a real cool dude, man. But he's from like Brooklyn. And he tells me, he goes, hey, man, let me ask you a question, big dog. He goes, what the F is that? And he points and he says he sees this thing You can clearly see it, like something blurry moving around in the hallway. He goes, it's right there. He goes, this is November 20, whatever it was. He goes, and then it's right here on November 1st. He goes, and then it's right here on October, whatever. He goes, and then it's right here. And he goes, whoa, stop. Wait a minute. He's like, he starts looking and he goes, that's the night that this happened to me. He says, and then they go back. He goes, yeah. He goes, I was just looking through. He goes, and I see this, like what almost looks like a blurred hand messing with the cameras. And it leaves like this residue over the cameras. So he goes, so obviously something was manipulating it. So he called this other guy who was his tech, his boss, from the camera company. And the guy comes and he's like, what the hell is that? He goes, we catch this thing on camera and it looks blurry. He goes, but here's the creepy part, dude. He goes, you can see the outline of what looks like a wolf's head on this thing. He goes, it is a blurred out entity moving around. He goes, and the night that me and Mark was his name. That was his name, Mark. He goes, the night me and Mark and Oscar were walking the halls. He's like, this thing walked right by us. He's like, and you can see Mark, he's armed. He's the patrol guy. He's like, he's kind of like, he turns his head. So he called Mark up. He says, look, he says, Vinny told me some weird stuff. And get this, my arms this is creepy. This is creepy. Because we had something sort of similar to this, okay? Not to that extreme, but it was sort of similar. So he says, dude, have you ever heard of anything like that? And I said, yeah, actually, yeah, the cameras. Do you remember, what's his name used to work for us? Milton. Mm-hmm. Wilton, when he came by and checked the cameras over at Palo Santos. And we couldn't figure out why that image appeared on the corner or whatever. And Wilton was like, something there is manipulating the cameras. Well, that office there was haunted. There was a murder there. But anyways, it was very similar, but not to that, like I said, to that extreme. But he says, dude, he's like, the cameras, and they're only set to record. They delete after 60 days or something like that at that time. And he says, dude, we see this thing moving around and it goes right by Mark. He says, and my boss, his name is John. I said, oh, cool. I said, he must have been a cool guy. He goes, no, he was a butthole. I'm like, oh, well, I can't speak for all Joshes, but on behalf of Joshes,
they call me
most of us are cool. Ooh, horrible number. Look, we're talking about this. Get out here. Go away. Woo. Yeah. Go.
Get out of here. Go.
Stop this. Get out of there.
Scram.
Go away, number of the devil. Get off. Let me see if I can hit it with this. Break this. Break the screen. Well, there's a screenshot for you, bad guys. They're gonna be like, see, look, he's of the devil. There it is.
I wouldn't screenshot that number. It'll be on your phone.
Screenshot it on there. There it is. See, folks, he's an evil man. We told you. Done told you. So, anyways, he says, dude, he goes, dude. He's like, Mark said, dude, he showed him the camera. And he says, look, you guys see this. And he said, it's weird. He goes, when he walked down that hallway, that particular hallway, he said he hears like footfall that sounded like a slapping of feet. And he smelled something that smelled like blood, urine, and wet dog.
Oh.
And he didn't just volunteer that. I did ask. And I don't want to lead the witness. You know that. But I asked him, I said, dude, did he smell anything peculiar? He goes, I asked him. He goes, and he said it smelled like what I smell, like a wet dog. I said, ask him again if you still communicate with him. And he says, no, I don't. He goes, my brother worked for the same company. And he goes, and he told my brother that story. And he said that it smelled like blood and urine too. So there you go.
Why is it always that?
What?
Those smells.
You got me.
So maybe during
blood, urine, sulfur.
Maybe during the change, they relieve themselves so they lose control or something. And the bleeding from the snapping of their own bones.
I don't think that the change does all that. You know, like people say, oh, it would require so much energy for them to change. No, I don't think it's that way. Because everybody that I've talked to who has witnessed these things, they don't, it happens like that, like real quick. It's not like this. It's not American Werewolf in London where they're like, you know, and they're like, it's not all that. Yeah. Make werewolves had a farm, snap, 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 and my bones. You know, I don't think that's how it works. I don't know because I'm not one, despite what some crazy people say. But yeah, I don't know exactly how shape-shifting works, but I'm pretty sure it's not like that.
How do you think? Well, I mean, if you were to guess, what would be your guess of how their change comes?
You know, I think because our world is a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more. It's more fluid than we think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
you know, we have friends who have shows that have talked about
maybe
this.
If it turns more spirit into the change and then goes back to the flesh once it's changed.
You don't want to put the camera on you while you're talking.
Yeah, I just said what I said.
Turn toward the camera.
Oh, I don't know where. Oh, there it is. What did I say? Oh.
And there you go, folks. Investigative journalists at its finest.
No, I mean like it's spirit during the change, and then when it comes, change is complete. It turns flesh and blood, and vice versa. That way, it wouldn't require any snappage and pain, maybe. I'm done.
Messing with you.
I know.
I don't know. Creepy thing. Very creepy thing. But the even creepier thing is that this deal was around more. It was around more often than he thought it was. And Vincent, the guy or Vinny, as he called him, caught it. He said, dude, this thing, and not only that, but this thing was putting some kind of goo or something on the camera lenses. And they had to go and clean them all off. He said, dude, you want to talk about scared? He's like, that's when I quit. He's like, it was a good job. It paid well. He goes, I got along good with the building managers. You know, he goes, I got to know all the people that live there. He goes, but I was done. He's like, I would never, ever. He said a couple years later, he goes, I was in a club down in Dallas. And I know where he was. I know the club he went to. I even know the club he went to. But it's not important. But I used to know the guy that owned it. But he said, dude, he goes, I was up in Dallas. I was at a club. He goes, and I run into one of the residents. They're a couple that used to live there. And he said it was this guy that used to work out at my gym, you know, because he lived close by, you know. And he goes, we started talking, and he's like, we began to talk about this weird guy that lived in the building at one point who had been kicked out of the building. When he got expelled, or I guess, you know, when you get an eviction, just when you get evicted, he's like, that, you know, you have to get your stuff out by a certain time. Well, this guy did not get everything out. And they found some very weird stuff inside of his apartment. Yeah. And so what they found were animal bones and lots of those styrofoam things with the meat, like for raw meat.
Yeah.
He had like 30, 40 of those or 30 or 40 stacks of those in his apartment. And his apartment smelled like rotting flesh, and there was blood in the bathtub.
Ew.
All they could guess was that something or someone there was blood in there.
Did they test it to see if it was?
Well, that's the problem, that the maintenance guys had started cleaning it, and then you know, the manager had told the assistant manager had told them not to, but they did it anyway.
Way to go, maintenance guys.
Well, the cleaning people, anyway, not the maintenance guys. Sorry about that. I'm not
Okay.
blaming the maintenance guys, but
Well then.
so you know, and he said the guy was a really tall guy. He goes, he's probably about an inch and a half taller than me. And he goes, I remember him just being very odd and weird. He goes, but we'll never know because the guy that came in there that night was wearing a Casper, the ghost mask. So there's no way to know. What?
Right there.
Look up here.
Right there. It wasn't a mask.
Yeah,
he was a ghost. And he turned into flesh.
Okay.
And then turned into a ghost again.
You think he was a ghost?
I mean, maybe it wasn't a Casper mask. Maybe that's just what they thought it was.
I don't know.
A ghost apparition from the 1920s, the way you say he was dressed.
You don't think it was the guy that was kicked out of his, or was evicted?
I don't know. What do you think?
You know, it's like everything else in this crazy, weird world. I mean, what can we think? I mean, it's weird stuff.
Well, I mean, obviously, he didn't come out. So where did he go? How did he leave the building? Let's ask Elvis.
And why was he? Why was there decomposing? Well, there was animals in his room, in his house, in his, you know, there were half. It looked like they had been chewed on. You know.
Well, when he's in form, flesh form, he has to feed the flesh.
You don't think maybe he was just a form of cloaking that he was doing? I mean, that seems like the
Ooh.
most plausible.
Yeah, you think he cloaked and then he was cloaked when he left the bathroom? Did they
I
ever
think it's
show
a
the
very
door?
yeah, I think it's a very possibility. I mean,
Did
folks,
they-
I don't know what you think, but I can tell you this: we need to hit the like button.
I forgot. Let me see. Well, like, did they ever show the door opening? Like somebody, just the door open and close by itself? Because if he was only cloaking, he would have to get out.
No, the door didn't open or close.
So
I don't know.
mm,
So there you go. And I asked him too. I said, "Has anything weird happened to you since then?" He goes, "Nothing like that." And I was like, "Yeah, thank goodness." That's pretty severe.
Kid Flash says the mirror.
I mean, if you're some kind of weird demonic entity, the mirror would probably be a form of,
Well,
you know,
technologies. Maybe there's a technology out there that a cloaking device can actually help make you walk through objects too. You know?
yeah. I mean, you know, if you're some kind of weird, you know, being, then I would think that would be a way for you to travel. A mirror, possibly, or
Oh, Zach Coulter. Or maybe the door to him had led to somewhere else. What happened, baby?
no, nothing.
Oh.
Nothing at all. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it.
It's interesting though, because there's so many different.
Maybe here's one. Summerside says maybe it didn't leave the washroom; it just stayed in there. The coast was clear.
Well, the simplest answer is the most likely to be it. You just waited them out.
Mm. There he goes. And Joanne says he could have been cloaked and came out when he came out of the bathroom and they didn't detect him.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. ED says spirit can appear very human-like. I once saw a soldier in spirit 3 times one night, appearing to be hitchhiking one time, and I could make out the stitches on his knitted jumper and the camo. That's weird.
That's scary.
Hold on one second, folks. Okay, so anyways, that that's that story. That's the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. But I don't, I can't give you any more answers. It seems like some of these things just create more questions. They don't really solve things, but sometimes you get a little closer to what you think could be the truth, and then this whole thing just throws you a curveball, and then we're just kind of left scratching our heads. I can tell you this: I wouldn't want to have happen to me what happened to Leon. I mean, this is, thank God. We really should all be thankful to God that this doesn't happen to you. I'm not joking, because it could happen at any time. Something could happen. The next story that we're going to get into, but first I want to see if we can find the next winner. Tell me if you haven't won. Let me know now. If you're in green and you haven't won. That's creepy.
What?
Dean says, I knew a person demon possessed. She said her deliverance, it felt as if her bones were being broken.
Ooh.
That's creepy. Katie's absolutely right. The only thing we really know is that Jesus saves.
That's the truth.
I'm going to tell you this. We spend so much time, like I said last night on Abe's show, I was only on there for 20 minutes or something, but we spend so much time looking at our neighbors and judging them for what they do and what they're not doing, and how good a Christian they are, or how good a Muslims do it too, how good a Muslim they are. I've had Muslims complain to me about their Muslim brethren not being good Muslims, blah, blah, blah. All religions do it. Buddhists do it, Jews do it, Muslims do it, Christians do it, Hindus, everybody. They're always looking at the neighbors to see how bad or good they are. Oh, that person's not a good religious person or whatever. And we do that, and we don't think about what we do. You have to look at yourself, and you should only judge that person that's in the mirror. Unless, of course, you're looking at a demon that's standing behind you in the mirror, and then it is just all bets are off. But what I'm saying is, and I'm being serious here, look at yourself, right? And judge you, and think about how you are pleasing to God. Have you been following Christ's commandments to love your neighbor, and stop judging your neighbor, and forgive, forget, move on. People don't do that. People have this, they can't remember what they had for breakfast, but they can remember something you did to them 10 years ago, some slight reproach or insult that they think is important. I've had friends do that to me, and they're just like, well, I thought you were mad at me because, I'm mad at you, or whatever. For why? Because you owed me money? What are you mad at me for? No, dude, you got to let things go. And I say this because, like, in the big scheme of things, what happened to Leon, I'm not saying it's super common, but it does happen to people. And it can happen to anybody at any time. You could have an encounter with something demonic, evil, bad, whatever, malicious, malevolent, rotten. People, person, animal, whatever, otherwise, some sort of being or demonic entity. And when you start that prayer to pray for God's deliverance at that point in time, how much of you is clear and free, untainted by your own anger, your own desires, your own hatred, your own jealousy, envy, strife, whatever it is that you're encapsulated by? That's the first thing I thought whenever I was done listening to his story. I thought, whoa. He seems like I don't know him that well, but he's, my friend vouches for him, and he seems like a very grounded and very well-rounded individual. He seems very grounded in his faith, just like the first guy, Bosco. And these men called upon God at a time when they needed it, and God delivered them. I get the chills. I think about this. What I told Leon, this is what I'm going to tell you. And I told Leon this. I said, I really believe this, my friend. I said, I think that God delivered you in a big way. I think that that entity went out of that restroom before you came out because it was the will of God to not harm you because it was looking to harm you. And you don't know what could have happened to you. You don't know. I mean, there are people who have run into entities that claim that they have been grabbed by them and literally like they were spirited away, and no pun intended, that's, to an alternate realm where this thing assaulted them, attacked them, whatever, and they could not, nobody could see it. Well, we've gotten stories like that. I've read stories like that before I was ever given one. There was a woman, she was literally at the casino. I don't want to say the name of it, but it's up in Oklahoma. And something grabbed at a very large casino, what she thought was a person playing slot machines near her, came up behind her and grabbed her. And she ended up being sort of in a side, I don't know, taken sideways into another dimension. And she was assaulted by this thing, physically, anyway. And she thought it was just another person, but it wasn't. And if you think that this thing can't happen, I'm telling you right now, you got people like the guy that was on Abe's show last night, Melvin, the African-American guy, who was talking about seeing these beings with the yellow eyes and the slits and all that. You don't know what is out there. You don't know who or what is out there. And so being prayed up and being ready to go, it's nice to just have that, well, I'm an atheist, and just not believe and have that little, feeling good about what whatever, so you don't have to have any fear. But let me tell you something. A buddy of mine, he really believes this. I was talking to him just a few weeks ago. He was telling me he likes to go swimming in the ocean all the time, every chance he gets. And he honestly believes that sharks won't bite him. He says that they're just as afraid of you as you are of them. I say that's a big crock of crap.
Not when they're hungry.
Lie, huh?
What does a 15-foot tiger shark got to be afraid of besides a 20-foot great white or an orca? I think those are probably the only two things to be afraid of, or a giant octopus, maybe. I don't think a big enough octopus to tackle a 15-foot tiger shark. But these animals are out there, bull sharks, tiger sharks, great whites. Why would they be afraid of you? You're in their realm. They're pure predators. There's nothing else there. There's predatory nature. That's it. So I told him, I said, bullshit. Okay. I love you like a brother, but you're completely wrong in this. I call him Aquaman as a joke. He's former SEAL. I tell him, I said, dude, they're not afraid of you, brother. I'm sorry. They're not. You can kick and slap and do whatever you want when they try to grab you. Go for the eyes. Well, when their razor sharp teeth are chomping chunks of flesh off of you, just remember, go for the eyes. These beings, to me, are predatory, but they're even worse because sharks aren't parasites. They're just predators. These things are both. They're parasites and predators. And it's only a matter of time before you encounter one or someone that's got one on them. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a cure for these things. And it's not just walking around carrying a Glock, like some people like to joke. We all are going to encounter predators at some point. And you better be right with God, because it could be you end up being unalived, or God spares you and you're able to get away. But at some point, that clock will strike midnight, and you will be faced with whatever. And then, are you ready? What time is it now, Mr. Wolf? Because it happened to Leon, it happened to Bosco, and it happened to the next person we're going to talk about. I'm not here to try to make you scared to death and walk around and, oh, what is that? You know, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to tell you that it can happen at any time.
To be aware.
Yeah, be aware. And just because your neighbor or your cousin or brother, friend, whatever, doesn't believe you, doesn't mean it's not there. They have that comfort of being ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. I was watching a show one time about the funnel web spiders, one of the deadliest it was until they discovered the wandering spider in Brazil. So it doesn't matter whether it's the most deadliest or the second deadliest. I mean, the top 10 spiders on earth that can kill you pretty much. This thing bites you, you're dead. And there are multiple species of this spider. It's called the funnel web, the Sydney funnel web. Look it up. It's in Australia. And there's a version of it that lives in the woods. And there was a homeless camp where these people were living, and you could see the little cans of food where they'd been eating and stuff. And this guy takes the camera and he pans in, and there's one of these funnel webs right there on the tree. And there was another one right underneath, like some of their garbage. And he goes, these people slept right here. One bite, and they would have been dead. An excruciating, painful death. And he's like, but I guess they didn't die. They didn't get bit because they'd be laying right there. Ignorance is bliss. I've seen people swimming, and they show an aerial view, and there's great whites just swimming right by them. Right underneath the surface, gliding monsters right there by you. Think of the paranormal and the spirit world is just like that. They're going right by you all the time. There was a Lovecraftian book written about it. What's it called? We watched a movie about it one day.
The ghost.
From Beyond.
From Beyond.
Yeah, about how they exist like pretty much parallel to our world. Like their world is like overlaid over ours. So yeah, and I mean it's you all know it's written in scripture too. Spiritual warfare is around us at all times. And then Lovecraft, that in one of his books, he says something along the lines of it's a mercy that we can't perceive the full world around us, because if we could, it would drive us insane, and that we're something like we're floating on a raft on black seas of infinity, which sounds really dark, but it's, I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of true. Like these things are always present in our world. Just you can't perceive them, and it's a mercy that we can't. I think like actually some people who we think are like who we would classify as like, oh, this person is mentally ill, this person is hallucinating, they're on drugs, this person is schizophrenic, with schizophrenia especially, that maybe they don't actually have a mental problem. Maybe their problem is that their minds perceive too much, and they just can't handle it. And who knows, if I were in their position, if you were in their position, Ellie, if both was in their position, who knows what kind of people we would be today. So it's a scary thing. It's a scary world.
Yeah. So, last night we were eating dinner at a seafood restaurant there in my hometown, and my wife went outside to grab something from the truck, and she heard a man screaming, and he was screaming, help me, help me. And she came in and told us. Wasn't 2 minutes later, this guy comes running into the restaurant. And it sounds silly, but he had his pants pulled down, and he was trying he was yelling to one of the, I guess he was one of the managers.
He was hysterical.
Yeah. And he was telling them that something or someone had bitten him. I'm not joking. We're not making this up. This is the absolute truth. There were some ladies there from Pflugerville.
Yep.
I heard him say it.
Yeah.
It's just happened to us.
And I'm going to say this. Where he was at across the road by the pond right there, which is the runoff from the artesian well. Mm-hmm. If you go across that pond, Right there on that in that neighborhood is where I saw the dog man. And here this guy goes into the restaurant. It's at a place called Baylor Seafood. Happened last night. The police showed up, and this guy was absolutely hysterical. He told a story to the people in the restaurant. I heard him. And then the police said that it was a different story. I don't know. But when he was telling the story inside the restaurant, I didn't hear him say anything about bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard him talking about a monster that bit him. When the police talked to us, they said that he was saying that they were covered in bugs or something like that, and something. So they said he was on drugs. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. To me, he was like, he goes, I promise you. He goes, I'm telling you the truth. You have to listen to me. And he kept on. And he was very adamant. I don't remember him saying anything about bugs inside the restaurant, but apparently the police say that he did. So, okay, maybe he went outside and he changed his story. I don't know. And I'm not going to say anything about the police there because I don't know. I just know what they told Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
But it is very common for someone who is on drugs and hallucinating to say something like that. So I have personally witnessed it on 6th Street where somebody's flipping out and acting crazy and they're on drugs. And then they said, oh, they said that, he was seeing bugs. So I thought it was weird that he said something different in the restaurant than he did when he was outside.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why his story changed.
When I went outside, he was they had him there and he was talking normal. He wasn't talking or slurring his speech or anything.
Yeah, you didn't notice that?
Yeah. And then the paramedics came and they were talking to him. It sounded like they were trying to get him to understand that you've done drugs, you're on drugs. He's like, I'm not on drugs, I'm not. And then he had the paramedics come because he was cut. So they gave him something, and I think that's when he was like kind of out of it after that. But that's when I went out and sat out there. And
then when they tried to take him in, he began to resist.
He was scared.
He was scared, yeah. And then they took him down, and he ended up being forced into the ambulance. Is that correct? He was at the ambulance, right?
Well, they got him on the gurney, and they gave him something while he was still sitting out there, and then I guess it must have kicked in, and that's when they got him on the gurney.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they got him on the gurney, and he was like, "There's bugs on me and stuff," but they'd already given him something. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, when I walked by him, I heard him. I looked right at him.
He didn't say anything about bugs until that.
I heard him say, "It bit me. It bit me."
Yeah, he was talking about something. He was in now. So according to the story, he was in a vehicle with a woman, and from what it sounded like, he was trying to say she was a monster and she bit him. All Nellie heard and saw was a vehicle speeding away and the guy screaming for help. Like he had jumped out of a vehicle. From what we could tell, we pieced it together the best we could, that he had jumped out of a vehicle and then he, now if it was just in Austin and it was a homeless guy in Austin, I would say, who knows? But they have credibility too, some of them.
I forgot the police. They when they got his information, or they asked him where he was from. I can't remember. That he was from so far away. They're like, how did he get here? Like the cops were kind of baffled about. They're like, what is a guy like this doing here? Then yes, the holidays might have been visiting family.
Yeah, well, I know that afterwards, whenever they loaded him up into the ambulance, and like most of the cops were on their way out, I had asked one of the cops who was about to leave. I wanted to ask him like, hey, what did this guy say to you? But I had to frame it to where like I wasn't asking, hey, did he say he got bit by a werewolf? Because I mean that's what he said in the restaurant.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. He said that. I
But
was waiting for that.
yeah, but so I asked the cop. I said, hey, did that guy say that he got bit by? Or I was like, I was in the restaurant when he came in. I'm the one who called y'all to get him some help. It sounded like you said he got bit by something, officer. Is there a big dog, a rabid dog, loose? I'm just a little bit concerned. Should we call animal control? Just trying to play it off, and the cop just kind of like shook it off and shrugged it off. He's like, "Oh no, he's on drugs." He was saying that there was bugs on him and that there was bugs crawling all over us. And well,
Why didn't he say that in the restaurant? Though?
I can't really say much more about it. I gotta go. I'm on the way to another call, and he just left. So, but like he was pretty dismissive and like quick to like get in his car and go. So I don't know.
Well, and like we've talked about it on the show, and it was a pre-record. Sorry, microphone. I didn't mean to slap you. But in the 60s, there was a situation there, and I'm not going to get into the whole thing here, and I don't want problems with, but there was some talk of a cover-up. I don't know, that was a long time ago. And a police officer, now deceased, told me and Jeff, the guy who used to work for us, and Scorpio, and another guy who's still they're working. I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want to put him on the spot, but I mean, there were like four of us standing there and talking, and this guy, this former police officer, who also answered the call when what happened to us when we were teenagers, and he says he'd been drinking. I'm not gonna lie, and he was retired. And like I said, he's since passed away. But he goes, you weren't wrong. You weren't crazy in what you saw. He's like, it's happened multiple times. And I'm wondering if last night wasn't a continuation of this. Being that we were where we were, I will say this, and now it makes something, and I told you the story about what, that happened prior to, I was at Randy's ice house. When I was 14 years old, I was with my dad. And I don't know where this guy went or where he came from or what happened to this guy. But I was with Anthony's dad, and I was with my dad, and I was with my sister's at the time boyfriend. His name is Gary, too. And he's in my book, Werewolves and the Dogman Phenomenon. We were all there. And this man walks in. And of course, this is also a grill. It's a barn grill. So even as a kid, it's a small town too. And back then, they weren't checking your ID. They're not going to serve you a drink. You're just one of the kids that runs around in there with the parents that are in there drinking beer. But the guy came in claiming that he had been attacked by a monster. In particular, a wolf-like thing. Because it seemed like he was hesitant to call it what it was. Now, little did I know that I think that was around Christmas time or something of 1989. In fact, I know it was. And I saw what I saw like a year later in October, not quite a year. Now, Phil Balcar, who runs the cell phone repair place, whatever, helps us with all of our stuff. He saw what he saw with Sean Winkleman, who used to be the owner of Blackman Guns there in Taylor, in December. So, once again, it was a December thing. But I don't know where that guy came from or where he went. I just know he was a Hispanic guy, and I just remember him doing that and saying that. And I was like, but I was hesitant to throw it in there because I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about the guy. So I didn't put that in the book. We debated it, but it was like, I got no way to verify that at all. Mm-hmm. But last night, the young man last night was terrified out of his mind. And he was saying that, and yes, we post that something attacked him a monster. He said it was a monster. And in fact, I'm pretty sure, Anthony, you heard it too, Nelly. It sounded like he said werewolf because the people that were right there, they were like, yeah. So the manager
That's when
came
they
out.
said, "Oh, he's on drugs. He's on drugs."
Yeah, he's on drugs.
Yeah.
Because when he first came in, he was just like a normal person that just was hysterical.
He was trying to
He
tell
He
them
wasn't
that somebody-
mumbling or
because he was like, "Can y'all please help me?"
yeah, he's all, please help me. Please. He was begging for help.
And he pulled his pants down to like show them a
Yeah.
bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, and he was like, he said, "You're not going to believe me." He goes, "But I just got attacked. There's a monster." He goes, "This person was a monster. It's not a person." And, you know, and then he said, "I don't know, a werewolf." He just threw that out there.
He saw it bit me. It
It bit me. Yeah. He kept saying it bit him. And I was like, and
I felt bad for the guy.
I didn't know what to think. I mean, but being that it was my hometown and it was right there where it was, you know, I mean, if I was in any other place and somebody just came in, you know, and the police could have easily just said, "Well, this guy's he's a lunatic. He's regular doing this." You know, okay, whatever. Being this where I'm from, and I've interviewed, you know, lots of people, 24 people that I know personally have seen these things around there. At one time, Taylor had the deepest artesian well in the world. Not anymore. But you don't think maybe these things could come up out of the ground, like they're in earth, you know, like maybe that's where they're coming from? I mean, you know, and I don't know. I mean, it you know, it begs the question of like, you know, was this guy hallucinating? Or
He didn't
was
seem like he was
something,
on anything.
I mean, or was he really, did something happen to him? Did he get attacked? Now, we discussed this in depth, and I was just like, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're saying that, you know, that there's cover-ups there and the way the cops were behaving, you know, and then they just try to not answer any questions and then just hurried up, had the ambulance come, the paramedics come, give him something real quick and scurried him off really fast. Well, then that town knows something and they're real good at getting it there quickly and covering it up.
Now, see, that's, I don't want to, I don't want to accuse the police department of anything. I don't
honestly,
disclaimer, I'm not accusing you of that.
I think it's just most likely that, like, I mean, they're people just working a job and they see people and deal with people who are actually on drugs and actually hallucinating all the time. So, I mean, like, they're not gonna show up with an investigative attitude and you know, be inquisitive. They're just gonna be like, "Oh, this again, man. All right, this is the fourth one this week," you know, whatever. Like that. I mean, they're just people trying to make ends meet. Like, they're just regular people. I don't think there's like a conspiracy or anything. But
that's exactly what someone working with the police to cover it up would say.
But I know that whenever that guy came in like all hysterical and you know, when he said that it bit me as a monster, as a werewolf, like, you could tell everyone else in the restaurant, like, their attitude immediately was like, "Oh, this guy's on drugs," whatever. But like, you know, me, Nelly, and Wolf were just looking at each other like,
and the ladies next to us, they were there. They
like,
were
maybe there's something to it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the ladies next to us were from Pflugerville, and we all kind of got stuck in the restaurant temporarily. We got blocked in by the EMS, the fire truck, and the police. And the guy was like, "You got to believe me. You got to believe me." And they were wrestling him down. And he kept on yelling that he was not. He goes, "I'm not lying. This is real, blah, blah, blah." Maybe it was. I don't know. But they were, the ladies there next to us were like, "Whoa, what the hell?" But I asked them, I said, "Can I interview you?" And all I had was my cell phone. I don't have cameras around. We have one camera that's in storage, but I said, can I interview? And they were hesitant. The one lady was like, "Well, I don't know, you know, my job." So they didn't, you know, but the manager there, he just kind of laughed it off because he was nervous, you could tell. And he was just like, "Sorry, folks, guy's on drugs, man. He just came in here, you know, and he was trying to play it off and whatever."
Mr. Manager, we were all here. We all witnessed it.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's what happened yesterday. Is this the first time that something like this has happened? No. I have a friend who is a good friend of mine with my buddy Daniel that saw the dog man. And I'm not gonna. Well, I don't have permission to say his name because I didn't ask. I'm sure he probably wouldn't mind, but I don't want to just take liberties. But we might get into it a little more with him. There was a time when he was in a convenience store right there in Taylor, and a guy came running in there doing the same thing, saying that he was being chased by a giant wolf and that it chased him for 2 blocks. And that it was being specific, it was 4 blocks away on Howard. Is it Howard Street or Howard Lane?
Howard Lane.
Howard Lane, and that he only outran it because it was so far away. But as it closed in on him, he turned into the parking lot, and it stopped just short of the parking lot at the Wagabag.
Sorry, it's Howard Street.
Howard Street.
Yeah, Howard Lane's in Austin.
Howard Lane's on. Yes, sorry, Howard Street. Now, this happened back in 2004. Okay. I remember it was 2004. And this may be a Mandela effect because I remember going back and having written it down in my journal as 2001. But according to him, it happened in 2004. And this guy is a friend of mine. And like I said, and Daniel Robles' I could reach out to him. Unfortunately, and this I don't think this kills his credibility, but unfortunately, he's been in jail a couple times, and not for drugs, but for other things. Not prison, but because he's one of those people. He likes to drive fast. He's one of those Fast and Furious people. I'm always teasing him, but he does break the law by exceeding speed limits, and
He's a speed racer.
Yeah, he's a street racer. He's been in trouble for it before. But anyways, he was in jail, and we talked one day. And I think it was like in 2000. It was when Daniel's mother passed away. And me and this individual spoke, and he had said, and he knew Doughboy. Remember Doughboy?
Yeah.
And so anyway, he was another street racer from Houston. He goes, "Oh, I know him." And so we started talking, and so he claims that a guy went in there. It was an African-American guy, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs that this wolf-like entity had tried to kill and eat him, which may have been a bit of an exaggeration because obviously it didn't catch him, but it was coming at him. He says he saw it 2 blocks away. So he started walking, and then he turned and it was running. And it wasn't far away from where me, Tony Duran, Jason, and Chad McGregor, my friends from when I was a boy. Tony Duran's been on the show. We've talked about it. Saw these black hellhound things with that, whatever the hell that guy was, the puppet or whatever. I don't know what he was. Wasn't far from there. And this black wolf-like creature chased him down to the Wagabag, and he went into the store. I always told myself, well, I'm going to try and flesh that story out and get it, whatever. But every time I try to talk to my friend, he's been in jail. So I took it as a sign, like maybe we just shouldn't talk about it. Then again, I took the advice of Zane. What is that? I shouldn't. Okay, maybe it's a sign you shouldn't talk about it. But whatever. It makes you wonder. But anyway, we'll rehash this and go over it again on the podcast episode, just so the people on Spotify who are stubborn asses and won't come to YouTube.
Yeah.
The Spotify people are that's the first thing they do. If they're under the age of 35, here's what they do. Are you on Spotify? I'm like, yeah, but we do most of our work on YouTube. Are you on Spotify? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I will be listening on Spotify because I hate YouTube. Like, oh, okay. Why is that? I am not a geriatric. I also don't do the Book of Face. I do Instagram where we communicate with pictures. I don't like all that words and writing and stuff. I also don't do phone calls. I only text with emojis.
Hieroglyphics.
Then they look over at their friend, and the friend is like, gotta make a different character here for the friend. But here's the friend. Yeah, yo, won't do all that stuff where you be like words, you be like, oh my, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even do that. I'm like, this dude's stupid as hell, man. I'm just chilling my drive, you know what I'm saying? Slapping my thigh. And you're like, word. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I will not impose my YouTube-ness on you. And they're like, yeah, you do that. Okay.
Do the Valley Girl.
Okay, Becca. All right, old guy. Good night. We're going to go and like be young people and communicate with pictures and stuff like that. I know you're like a caveman and you don't know about all that, but that's what we do. Okay. You heard of WhatsApp? WhatsApp? Huh? WhatsApp? I'm sorry. What are you saying? What's up? I said, what's up? That's what we do. Okay. Like, you're like, oh as hell. Oh my God. Like, so, why are you talking to me? I'm 28. I'm a baby. You shouldn't be talking to me. Okay. Like, creepy old guy. Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, here's my business card. Is that like, oh my God, is that like paper? What is that? It's like from like the Civil War days and stuff. Civil times or whatever it's called. The Silver War. I don't care about the Silver War. Get out of here. Who cares about silver anyway? It's like weird. Oh my God. Creepy old guy trying to give me a card. Like, oh my God. I don't collect cards. It's so weird. My little brother used to. It's Pokemon. Like, oh my God. So gross. What's the name of your channel? Paranormal Roundtable. It doesn't matter. I can't remember what were we just talking about. Who are you again? Oh, I forgot you have short attention spans.
Too many syllables.
I don't even know what you're saying. You're talking like, and then they go back to this guy again. And he's over there like, his pants are down by his ankles, by the way. He's like, yo, this guy, like, it's like super gay talk, man. This dude, man, I'm like, what is this dude even talking about? I'm like, caps, you know what I'm saying? Like, he be high capping, I don't even understand. This dude, it just tripped me out. Like, this dude, like, his word, he's all like, just like faggy talk, like, like, I got a show, I use Facebook, stuff like that. I don't even know this dude's blowing my mind. And you're like, holy shit. Sorry, I didn't realize that you had the retardation. I believe you to your retardation. For real. No cap, for real. I took the cap off. Because when somebody actually told me that, me and Anthony literally, remember the guy said no cap, and I'm like, well, he kept saying it, so I took the hat off.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It means like no lie or something, right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and we were trying to communicate with this guy. He was telling us a story, and he was like, dude's like total Chad. It's like no cap. And I'm like, what? Chad? Who the hell is that? And it was like
mean?
Chad and no cap. I don't know. It's some kind of weird lingo. These
I'm not even going to
people
participate
be
in that.
talking, and they be talking crazy, man.
Speak correct English or don't speak to me at
can't-
all.
I don't know what it is. These people are nuts, man. They might as well be talking a foreign language. And I speak several, and I can't understand it.
I'm going to have to start learning hieroglyphics for the
Yeah.
emojis.
And they're so weird too, man. Like, I remember I gave a card. There was a group of people I was talking, and these two people came up and started listening to me. And the guy from the Philippines, the guy, the big dude.
Yeah.
He told us a vampire story. So we're sitting there, and the guys were telling us a story, and these two ladies came up and were kind of listening, and then So I gave them all a business card. And when I was going back out to the truck, I saw the one girl walk over to the trash and just drop it right in the trash. And I was like,
Are you serious?
And then she
Oh
went
my
and got on the
gosh.
little back thing and was going up and down. And as she came up, I was like, No, I'm joking. I didn't. I was just like, thank you for throwing my card in the trash. The next time I saw her, I went right up to her and I was like, you owe me for that card. You threw it right in the trash. I saw you throw it right in the garbage after I walked out. Why would you even take it if you're just going to throw it in the garbage? I said, and I reported you and your membership's been revoked. And she's like, And I'm like, I'm joking. I didn't do none of that. I wish I would have, though. I wish I could. I wish I could have, like, just got her kicked out of the gym. She goes, start swiping her little card. What is going on? Like, why am I not in here? Why am I not being able to video myself and pictures of my butt while I work out? Why am I not able to video myself and put it on Instagram? This is like not happening
Chris
to me.
Anderson what is
She called her
Riz?
mom, Dad. Why did you not pay my gym bill? I need to make my booty big for Instagram. That's why I hate you, Mom and Dad. That's why I hate you. Chris Anderson said, what?
Said what is Riz?
That's
Maddie
another
said that
stupid
means
one.
charisma or
Oh,
something.
gosh, dude.
Ask Maddie all
I've
this
been
stuff.
told
Maddie
I have
knows all
that
this
too.
stuff.
They're like, you got some riz,
They
bro,
can't remember big words like charisma.
Yeah. And I'm Chad's. I'm a Chad because Chad is like,
What's Chad?
okay, so Chad is like, I've been called an Uber Chad,
What's
which
an
is like,
Uber Chad?
okay, so you're a Chad is a very masculine dude.
Chad?
Yes. Yes. And I had to learn this from Stefan, Stefan's friend. And so he goes, oh, that means like you're like really a masculine guy or whatever. And I'm like, okay, this is so stupid.
So like it started out on like this stupid internet forum, I think called Lookism, which is just like this god awful place where like dudes will like critique what like analyze and critique what makes a man attractive. It's weird.
Giga Chad.
It's like a bunch of insecure dudes going on there, but like Chad just means like a good looking dude, like with the square jaw and the pronounced chin
Cool.
and whatever.
So I have a square looking jaw.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know, folks. Take a vote. Am I a Giga Chad?
I thought you said Uber.
I've been called Uber Chad too. I had this one girl.
The way you had. It's so funny.
She was just like, you're like a total Chad. You're like Uber Chad. I'm like, I didn't know what the hell she was talking about.
That stupid meme is what started it.
Johnny Bravo
Show
looking
the-
types.
Show what it that
It's
shows
just
these
that
people what the
some
hell these
internet
morons are
meme. That's
talking
just
about.
that's
the hell
what
is
started
that?
it out. It's like a cartoon that's supposed to be like the
gosh,
epitome of masculine. I
Get
don't
outta
know.
here.
Stupid.
That's masculine?
Don't look at me. I don't know what the hell. I mean, you know, I can't figure these people out, dude. I don't know. I don't deal with them. They tell me things. They're like, well, tell me do things. I go run and stuff. Like, okay, I don't even. Whatever. I can't figure it out. My little cousins are always telling me, and they're all like, here's a weird thing too. My little cousins and nieces and nephews are so proud of me for having all these haters. Like they are literally, they're like, that validates you, man. Remember we were at Pepe's party and and his cousin or whatever it was.
I don't want to be
He's
validated.
like, you totally are validated, man. And I'm like, that's what's so epic is like you got all these haters, man. You got real haters, and I'm like,
that doesn't mean that you're
aggravating
doing something right.
You
Like
know, I guess it's
sometimes you're just a turd.
well, is that what I am?
No.
No, I'm saying like by like you're not doing something like you're not successful by default because people hate you. Like that's a stupid metric by which to measure success.
They do though. The younger people are like, if you don't have haters,
it's like, oh, if you don't have haters, you're not doing nothing. You're not doing something. Or if you have haters, you must be doing something right.
So guess what?
Not really.
Haters.
Sometimes maybe you're just like breaking into people's houses and stealing their stuff, and they hate you for it, and you're a turd. Did you ever think of that?
Red pill. What do you think? I can tell you this. Listen up, haters. All right. Haters, waiters, and mashed potatoes. all the hate that you're giving me is turning me into a Mecca Uber Giga Chad. Okay?
Well, I'm not used to that, but that's okay.
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 Okay. Okay. Just letting you know. Because I have the Pan. You can talk to it or you can get this. I thought so. Look how they talk without closing their mouth. God, please just fall over. Fall over. Go unconscious, please. Just faint. And I've had to sit there and listen to people's conversations. I'm like, yeah, thank you. The worst is dealing with the manager who's like half your age. And they're like, what did you order? I'm like, you were my waiter, dude. You just took the order. Look, pay me to like memorize stuff. I'm like, yeah, they do. You're a freaking waiter. Look, all I know about you is that you have some kind of weird channel about parents and stuff. I don't even know you. Okay.
Round parents.
I'm just like, your parents, they're like round at the table. That's all I know. And you're like, dude, I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to. And if you were to slap them, they'd be like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Then they'd have to take a picture of it real quick.
You would be holding up this real quick and you'd be like side to side. You know, this is the man who brutally assaulted the Gen Zer who's now in tears. It's day 62 and he's still crying. Well, not he, them, they are crying. It is crying. And then it's like, in the arms of an angel. And you're like, did they die? No, but emotionally, yes, they died multiple times every day since you gently slapped them on the face. Waking up to the fact that they live in this reality now has scarred them emotionally. And I'm pretty sure they will never, ever come out of it. They're in
an emotional coma.
I was going to say, in a coma from their emotions are just laying there. Wow. I didn't mean to do all that, but I'm glad I could help society. Because, I don't know, kind of like the Joker on the first Batman. This town needs an enema. Let me tell you. These people do what they do. They have the retardation, and they don't even know it. They think it is normal to be as stupid as they are. But anyway, so last but not least, we have a story, and this one was really, what's up?
Oh, I'm waiting.
You were looking surprised. You're like,
oh.
This is Nellie right here, guys. She was like, my cousin Bo's like that. He always looks surprised. He's always like, I'm like, do you blink? No.
Oh, then
I was just surprised.
I was doing my impression of him then.
Anthony, I'm always like teasing Bo.
Yeah.
Like, his eyes were always like, he's not on drugs. He just, he's a big guy. And he goes, I don't know. People get intimidated by me. I go, because you look like you're on drugs and you're big and scary.
Yeah.
You walk into a store, you're like, I need a can of snuff. And he talks loud at times when he's, in a hurry. So I go into the store, speaking of going to the store in Taylor, and I walk in there, and there's a little guy from Nepal that was running the store, that one at the end, the last one out of town, whatever. And I remember me and him, it was like Thanksgiving when I got a ride with him. And he goes in there to get a can of snuff or whatever it was. I think it was snuff. And he's like, Copenhagen. The guy was like, whoa, hey. And Bo's kind of big, and he's got his eyes. And the guy's like, are you okay? He's like, what? Do I look like something's wrong with me? And, yes, you do. You look something wrong. I'm like, he just has a surprise face. It's been an affliction since he was a child. He was scared by a spooky ghost. Turned out it was his mother. She was dressed as a witch. She came in real fast, and then he was scared, and his face stayed that way. He gets mad when I make jokes like that, but I'm like, dude, you do. Okay. I remember when we were working security together, and he questioned these kids. They were breaking windows, You know, they were just kids. Remember how they did it over at Row Lane? Same
Yes.
thing. And we caught them. And Bo was like, "Why'd you do it?" And the kid was like, "We were just, I don't know." And he was like, "Well, you better tell me, because you're going to jail." And you know, these are little kids, you know. And then so I took him off to the side. And look, they're about to cry. And I'm like, "Hey, man, you know, he just looks angry and surprised all the time. Just ignore it to him. He's gonna watch us and talk. He's gonna call me up." If you want to know what Bo looks like, he looks like Tim. Remember Tim, my cousin that came on? Did Tim? Okay, he kind of looks like Tim, but without a beard and more surprised. Kind of looks like him. Anyways, folks. So what happened? This story's not real long, but there was a guy who did security, and he used to work with us years ago at another company that I worked with, and then he came and he worked with us for several months. And this isn't a real long story, but I thought it was really creepy. And I'm probably going to retell this one on the podcast episode too. He was doing his rounds, and they had some problems, and he didn't know what he was there for. The particular complex he was in, it was down near campus, you know, near the 40 acres, which is, you know, the UT campus. And I don't know what it's called now, but at the time it was called like Water's Edge or some fancy. You know, they always have these goofy names that don't even make sense. They're like Sky Lodge. You know,
Yeah.
There's no sky. It's not a lodge.
Yeah.
Just a dumpy place that's in a good spot. But anyways, he was there, and he said, he goes, I was walking, and I see this woman like in a car, and she's moving around. She's going from the back seat into the front and then to the back seat again. And he goes, and I'm thinking, this woman's on drugs. She's got to be. Something's wrong with her, you know? So he goes, I shine my light over there. He goes, and I walk over to it. And he goes, I noticed the flashlight went right through the windows, and I couldn't see her. There was nobody there. He's like, so I was like, He's like, so I'm thinking, you know, maybe she's dug down. So he goes, so I walk over to the car. He's like, it's just a basic Toyota Camry, whatever. And this was like, you know, several years ago. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, I think it was like 2016 or something, which seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it's actually about 9 years now.
Yeah.
Going on 9 years. So he shines the light in the car, and there's no one in the car. And he's like, I'm like, whoa, that's so bizarre. Like, there's nobody there. He goes, then I turn around to do my rounds. He goes, and right there by the trash cans, he goes, I see this very pale, like white, like a sheet of paper white woman with dark hair. This is a creepy story, but anyway, he says this person is staring right at me. He's like, and I'm thinking, that looks like the woman I just saw moving around from the front to the back of the car. And it was unnatural the way she was moving. And so he tells me, he says, he was telling me this story. He was telling me and my brother, and I think it was Clark too. He was telling Clark. And anyways, he says, dude, he goes, I was standing there. He goes, and it was middle of the night. And get this. I said, what time was it? He said, it was about 3 a.m. Yeah. Always. And he said, if I had to be specific, I think it was like 3:10, something like that, in between 3:10 and 3:15, something like that. He's like, and I noticed this woman. He goes, and I got these chills. He goes, she was standing there like the Grudge, you know, like The Ring, you know. My words, not his, but just the way he said it, you know, it was like that. And she was just looking at him like, kind of like what Tony saw over at Brackenridge. And he said that this thing was staring at him. And I say thing because that's it didn't seem human. He goes, and this person was barefoot, and you could just see white, a pale white being in this black tattered outfit, and the clothing was all messed up, and you couldn't tell whether it was like a torn up dress or if it was leggings or what. And he says, and I'm staring at it. He goes, and I'm just like. He goes, so I shine my light on it, and it's gone. He goes, then I turn my light off, and I stand there for a minute, and I thought, I just saw a ghost. He goes, and then I look, and she's standing just like 4 or 5 feet away from me to my right. just like right there. He goes, and the eyes were completely whited out, dude. And he goes, and I fell backwards. He goes, I was so freaked out. I fell backwards. He's like, I grabbed my flashlight and I got up. He's like, and I had my pepper spray and I was like going to spray her, but she was gone. He goes, I was looking around. He goes, and I shined back in the car. And he goes, what the hell? He goes, so a few days later, right, he sees this girl and this guy getting into that car, and it's toward the beginning of his shift. He worked 6 to 6, but it was like 8, 9 at night. And he goes, it was in, early part or whatever of the shift. And he's like, And he wants to tell them what he saw, but he's like, he didn't really have the nerve. And so he says he just sat there in his car or in his truck. And he said that later on in the night, they came back. It was about 10 o'clock, and they were kind of laughing and talking. The guy walked by him. He goes, and I was outside my truck smoking a cigarette, and the guy was like, hey, what's up, man? And he kind of made eye contact with the guy and the girl, and they were nice to him. And he was like, hey. He goes, and I did not plan. It just came out. It was just, I blurted it out. I said, hey, I got a question for you. He goes, I know it's going to sound crazy, but he's like, a few nights ago, I thought I saw somebody in your car. And he goes, I didn't tell them the rest of the story at that point in time, And then the girl turns and she was like kind of standing there. And she goes, she was very inquisitive. And the guy just kind of looked puzzled. And she goes, really? And then get this. This is where it gets really bizarre. The girl tells him, she's like, what did she look like? And he describes, and he's like, and he goes, at this point, I'm chain smoking. I'm nervous. I'm sitting here like, I don't want these people to think I'm crazy. And then, of course, I saw this weird thing. And he said that the girl told him, she was like, yeah, that's weird because she's like, the people that sold the car to my parents, my parents got me this car. She goes, I've had it for 6 years. And she goes, and it was almost brand new when we got it. And they just wanted to get rid of it because their daughter had drowned in a lake up in Canada. And the car was there. And it was a very bizarre thing. Apparently, she had just gone off into the water by herself at night and just drowned. And that was it. And so the car ended up, getting sold to her parents who lived at that time up near the border. And so it was some lake up in Canada, he was telling me, and he was like, so the girl that used to own that car had passed away that way. So there's a little more to it. He said that a few more days go by, and he goes, and we were there on a day shift because they had some break-ins and stuff. So they changed the hours from 6 to 6 to 4 to 4 because these companies, they never do what they really need to do, and because they don't want to spend the money. And don't we know it? But she tells him that, hey, she's like, she comes up to his truck and she's like, hey, she's like, I don't know if it's because we talked about it or what. She goes, but it kind of confirms. She goes that she's like, I thought I saw a girl one time in the back of my car, but it was real brief. She's like, and my little brother was with me. She's like, and he's a couple years younger than me, and she's not like a kid. She's like in her 20s, That's what she said. And so we both kind of stopped, and he's like, what are you talking about? She's like, so I let my brother use the car the other day because his truck was in the shop or whatever. And she said that he freaked out and he called her and told her that he wasn't getting back in the car because when he got in the car, there was a woman sitting next to him in the passenger seat. And that when he looked, she disappeared, like she vanished. And this is like right in the middle of the city. He goes, and he was like coming out of a restaurant. Like, more specifically, I think it was Papado's. Mm-hmm. So he was coming out of Papado's and he sat there and it was like, boom, she's there and then she's gone. And it freaked him out really bad. He goes, but she looked horrible, like something had happened. She had an accident or something. So she told him that, and then he told us that story, and I thought, man, I was going through stories, city, terrifying stories in the middle of the city. And so I looked into the security guard files and there's a ton of them in there. But yeah, pretty freaking creepy. So, anyways, folks, I hope I didn't scare you too bad, but that is a weird one. So there you go. You got what could be a vampire, you have a werewolf, and then you have a ghost. I don't know. And then whatever the hell happened to that young man last night in my hometown. But yeah. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who donated and bought memberships. Thank you to everybody who was just, y'all make the show what it is, for showing up. Under fire, are you joking? Come on, man. So anybody else not won before? Have you not won? So we can get you in here and win. I never won. Sometimes I missed the lives due to my OTR. And BJ LaPierre says I haven't won in a year. Well, hit us up next week, BJ, because I think this is going to be the third one, right?
Yeah. There was a guy earlier, like, I think his name was like Pablo something. It was in green. He said he hasn't won, but he's out here now.
Well, Pablo, if you're there. And like I said, a great way to put the Patreon thing up there. A great way to support the show is the Patreon. It's pretty much the best way.
So Murphy was the first one to pipe up.
He says, I've never won. So Jason Broussard beat him.
Okay.
Says, I've never won. Sometimes I miss a lot. Okay, Jason. And as long as you're not overseas, because we're going to have to split the shipping if you are. No, the other day we just went ahead and shipped somebody from Canada and another one from Australia. Cost us $200.
Yeah.
So people talking crap saying, "Oh, they're in it for the money." If we're in for the money, why are we doing $200 shipping? I mean, come on, dude. Give me a break, dude. These people can kick rocks. Oh, Cassie, yes, folks, pray for Cassie Joe. Poor dog. She's had some issues. I'm a dog lover and a cat lover and an animal lover in general. I wish I wasn't. I wish I didn't like to eat chicken, but I don't eat much red meat, but I eat chicken. And I love brisket. I can't help it. But I try not to. I try not to eat too much bad stuff like pizza and stuff like that. But it happens. So tune in next week. We'll have a giveaway again. And remember, we're doing Fridays now. I'm going to have guests. I have about 5 or 6 different people lined up for Friday that I may have on. I don't know. And yeah, there it is right there. Thank you, Lolo. Great way to support the show by joining Patreon. Please follow the link if you'd like to join. Yeah. I would say that's probably the best way to support the show is by joining the Patreon. You get the coolest stuff, and when we get those new tumblers made, you guys are on the Patreon. You're going to get them for free. So new stuff comes out, you'll be the first ones to know about it. I'm also going to start having meetings with my Patreon people because you are the backbone of the show, the Patreon people. You're very committed, and so you're going to be able to have more input about what we do and what we talk about. I don't put the stories or anything behind a paywall, but I'm going to start doing some Q&As with the Patreon people. And what we decided was we could do this. We could go over some of these cases, and if there's any updates, right, for the cases, they can ask questions about them. And if I have them, right there, then we can talk about them. Or if I have them, if they're still in my memory, then we can go in depth on them. And we can talk about these cases and give you updates. And we could also go through what you want to hear about for the show and what direction you'd like to see. Or, we could talk about the different types of merchandise that we could come out with, things like that. Once the website, because Tuesday we have the meeting with Seven Clay. So anyways, there it goes. Thank you for tuning in. We had a great time. Y'all want to say bye?
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right, guys. Good night.
He said it.